Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto met Mermaid Kushina and married her? And subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And also check the description. So let's begin the story. The storm had been building since morning, a dark wall of clouds rolling in from the eastern sea like an invading army. Naruto Uzumaki stood on the weathered dock, watching the fishing boats return one by one, their sails tattered and crews exhausted. The other fishermen hurried past him without a word, without even a glance. It was always like this. 16 years of living in the coastal village of Nami, and he might as well have been a ghost. Demon child, he heard old Tazuna mutter as he passed, making a warding sign with his gnarled fingers. Naruto's hand instinctively went to his cheek, tracing the 3 whisker-like marks on each side of his face. He'd been born with them, or so the village priestess had told him when he was old enough to ask. Born with them and left at the orphanage steps with nothing but a name pinned to his blanket. Naruto. A name that meant maelstrom, fitting for a child abandoned in a fishing village, yet belonging nowhere. The wind picked up, carrying the taste of salt and the promise of violence. The remaining boats were being secured, ropes checked and double-checked. Everyone was hurrying to their homes, their families, their warm hearths and full tables. Everyone but Naruto. His own boat, if he could call it that, was a small, battered fishing vessel he'd pieced together from scraps and salvage over the years. The village elder had forbidden him from joining the fishing fleet, claiming his presence would curse the catch. So Naruto fished alone, in the forgotten coves and dangerous waters where no sane fisherman would venture. It was lonely work, but he'd grown used to loneliness the way others grew used to breathing. "You planning to die out there, boy?" a gruff voice called out. Naruto turned to see Kakashi, one of the few people in the village who sometimes acknowledged his existence. The silver-haired former sailor had lost an eye to the sea years ago, and wore a patch over it now. He was examining Naruto's boat with his remaining eye, his expression unreadable. "Just checking the moorings," Naruto replied, though they both knew he'd been considering going out. "The storm's going to be a bad one," Kakashi said, lighting his pipe despite the wind. Old Tsunami saw the signs. Red sky in the morning, sailor's warning, and that sky was blood red today. "I've been in storms before, not like this one." Kakashi's single eye fixed on him with something that might have been a concern. "Whatever you're trying to prove, it's not worth drowning over." "I'm not trying to prove anything," Naruto said, and it was mostly true. He just didn't see the point in hiding when he had nowhere to hide, no one waiting for him. The storm would come whether he faced it from the shore or the sea. Kakashi studied him for a long moment, then shrugged. "Your funeral, kid. Try not to haunt the docks when you die. It's crowded enough with ghosts as it is." He walked away, leaving Naruto alone with the rising wind and his thoughts. The smart thing would be to go back to his small shack on the outskirts of the village, bar the door, and wait out the storm. The smart thing. Naruto had never been particularly good at smart things. What he was good at was surviving, at pushing forward even when everything and everyone told him to give up. It was a stubbornness that ran deeper than his bones, something fundamental to who he was. But today, he decided to be smart. Or at least, less reckless than usual. He finished securing his boat, and started the walk back to his shack as the first fat drops of rain began to fall. The village streets were empty now, shutters closed and doors barred against the coming tempest. Warm light glowed from the windows, and Naruto caught glimpses of families gathered together, children being pulled close, mothers serving hot soup, fathers reinforcing doors. His shack waited for him in the darkness beyond the village proper, a squat structure that leaked in the rain and froze in the winter. He'd built it himself when the orphanage threw him out at 13, deeming him old enough to fend for himself. It wasn't much, but it was his. The storm hit an hour after nightfall with a fury that shook the very foundations of the earth. Rain came in sheets so thick it was like standing underwater. Thunder crashed like the fists of angry gods, and lightning split the sky in jagged white scars. Naruto's shack groaned and creaked, water finding a dozen new leaks to exploit. He placed his few cooking pots strategically to catch the drips, listening to the irregular percussion they created. He should have been afraid. Instead, he felt strangely calm. There was something honest about a storm. It didn't pretend to be something it wasn't, didn't hide its nature behind false smiles and whispered insults. A storm was what it was, and there was a kind of purity in that. Around midnight, the wind changed. It was a subtle thing, something most people wouldn't have noticed, but Naruto had spent his life reading the sea's moods. The wind shifted from the northeast to almost due east, and with it came a sound beneath the thunder. A sound like music, like singing, like nothing he'd ever heard before. He pressed his face to the window, peering out into the maelstrom. Lightning flashed, illuminating the rain-lashed world in strobing bursts of white light. There, in one of those flashes, he saw something in the direction of the Forbidden Cove. A light. Red, like fire, like blood, impossible in the middle of the storm. Naruto grabbed his oilskin coat without thinking, without planning. His body moved on instinct, something deep inside him responding to that light like a moth to flame. He should stay inside. He should be smart. But his hand was already on the door. The storm tried to kill him the moment he stepped outside. Wind slammed into him like a physical blow, nearly knocking him off his feet. Rain pelted his face hard enough to sting, and the roar of the tempest swallowed his gasp. But Naruto leaned into it, pushing forward step by step, his eyes fixed on the direction where he'd seen that impossible red light. The Forbidden Cove was a 20-minute walk in good weather. In the storm, it took him nearly an hour of struggling against nature's fury. His coat was useless against this deluge. He was soaked to the skin within minutes, water squishing in his boots, his hair plastered to his head. But still, he pushed forward. When lightning flashed again, he saw it clearer this time. Something was tangled in the fishing nets that had been abandoned in the cove. The ones the village had left after deeming the area cursed when 3 fishermen died there in a single season. The red light was coming from whatever was caught in those nets. Naruto half ran, half stumbled down the rocky path to the cove. Waves crashed against the shore with enough force to shatter stone, and the sea beyond was a roiling black mass studded with white foam. No one could survive in water like that. Nothing living could. Another flash of lightning, and Naruto's heart stopped. There, tangled in the nets, was a woman. But not just a woman. Even from a distance, even in the chaos of the storm, Naruto could see the tail. Scales that gleamed like rubies and garnets, catching and refracting the lightning's glow. A tail where legs should be, powerful and serpentine and utterly impossible. A mermaid. She was fighting the nets with desperate strength, her body thrashing in the shallow water where the tide had dragged her. But the nets were old and strong, blessed by priests to catch demons and monsters, and they were doing their job too well. Every movement only tangled her further, and the waves kept trying to drag her back into the deadly deep. Naruto didn't hesitate. He ran. The water was shockingly cold when he plunged in, stealing the breath from his lungs. Waves buffeted him, trying to drag him under, but he fought toward the trapped mermaid with everything he had. Up close, she was even more impossible. Her hair was the same deep crimson as her tail, long and wild, floating around her like blood in water. Her skin was pale, decorated with delicate scales along her shoulders and arms that caught the light like opals. Her eyes were what stopped him, violet. Deep violet, like the ocean at twilight, and filled with a fury and fear so intense it was like looking into the heart of the storm itself. When she saw him, those eyes went wide, and she made a sound, something between a hiss and a scream, musical and terrible at once. "I'm going to help you," Naruto shouted, though he doubted she could hear him over the storm. "Stop fighting." She didn't understand, or didn't care. When he reached for the nets, she snapped at him with teeth that were just slightly too sharp, too white. A warning. A threat. "Please." He held up his hands, showing her they were empty. "I'm not going to hurt you." Lightning struck somewhere close, the thunder instantaneous and deafening. In the flash of light, their eyes met, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or just the shared understanding of two living things caught in the jaws of death. The mermaid stopped fighting. Naruto pulled his gutting knife from his belt and started sawing at the nets. The blessed rope resisted, tough as iron, but his knife was sharp and his determination sharper. He cut and cut, his fingers going numb in the cold water, while the mermaid watched him with those impossible violet eyes. A wave crashed over them both, and Naruto lost his footing, going under. Salt water burned his throat and lungs. In the underwater darkness, he felt something wrap around him, the mermaid's tail, powerful and smooth, anchoring him. When he surfaced, gasping, she was closer, studying his face with an intensity that made him feel naked. He got back to cutting. It took what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Finally, the last strand parted, and the mermaid was free. She should have fled then, should have disappeared into the deep where she belonged. Instead, she hesitated, floating in the turbulent water, her hand reaching out to touch his face. Her fingers were cold and webbed, tipped with sharp nails that could have torn his throat out. But her touch was gentle, tracing the whisker marks on his cheek with something like wonder. She made a sound, a melody that rose above the storm, and it sounded like a question. "I don't understand," Naruto said, his teeth chattering. "You need to go. It's not safe." As if to emphasize his point, another massive wave rose behind them like a wall. The mermaid's eyes went wide, and she grabbed Naruto, pulling him down and covering him with her body. The wave crashed over them with crushing force, tumbling them in the churning water, but her tail wrapped around him, protecting him, keeping him from being smashed against the rocks. When they surfaced again, they were deeper in the cove, in a small grotto partially sheltered from the storm's worst fury. Naruto's head broke the surface, and he coughed up salt water, his body shaking violently from cold and exhaustion. He tried to swim toward the rocky shelf that formed a crude beach, but his limbs wouldn't cooperate. The mermaid supported him, her powerful tail propelling them both through the water. She lifted him onto the rocks with surprising strength, then pulled herself up beside him. This close, Naruto could see the full extent of her injuries. Deep cuts where the nets had bitten into her flesh, bruises forming along her pale skin, and something worse, a gash on her side that was bleeding sluggishly, the blood darker than human blood, almost purple in the lightning flashes. "You're hurt," he managed through chattering teeth. She said something in a language like singing, like water flowing over stones, beautiful and incomprehensible. Her hand touched his chest, right over his heart, and he felt something, a warmth that spread from the point of contact, pushing back the deadly cold just enough to let him think clearly. Naruto shrugged out of his ruined coat, and ignoring her startled hiss, pressed it against the wound on her side. She tried to pull away, but he held firm, meeting her eyes. "Let me help," he said quietly. "You saved me. Let me help you." Maybe she understood his tone if not his words. Maybe she was too tired to fight anymore. Either way, she stilled, allowing him to apply pressure to the wound. Up close like this, he could see the slight glow that emanated from her skin, the source of that red light he'd seen from his shack. It pulsed in time with her heartbeat, slower than human, deeper, like the rhythm of waves against the shore. They stayed like that as the storm raged outside their small shelter, two impossible beings huddled together in the darkness. The mermaid's eyes never left his face, studying him with an intensity that should have made him uncomfortable but somehow didn't. There was intelligence there, ancient and alien, but also something familiar: loneliness. He recognized it because he'd seen it in his own reflection often enough. "My name is Naruto," he said, pointing to himself. "Naruto." She tilted her head, then made a sound that approximated it. "Na are you too?" His name in her voice was music, poetry, and something that made his chest tight. He smiled despite the cold, despite the danger, despite everything. "Yeah. Naruto." He pointed to her. "What's your name?" She seemed to understand the question. Her hand touched her own chest, and she sang a single word, complex and layered with harmonics no human voice could replicate. But buried in those layers, Naruto heard something he could grasp. "Kushina?" He tried. Her eyes widened, and she smiled, actually smiled, revealing those sharp teeth that should have been frightening but somehow weren't. She nodded eagerly and repeated it. "Kushina. Kushina," he said again, committing it to memory. "That's beautiful." The storm began to fade as the night wore on, its fury gradually subsiding into heavy rain and distant thunder. Kushina's wound had stopped bleeding, and she'd inspected his hands, which were cut and blistered from the rope. She'd made distressed sounds and touched his injuries gently, then done something that made his breath catch. She'd brought his cut palm to her lips and kissed it. Where her lips touched, the pain faded. Not completely, but enough to make his eyes widen. When she pulled back, there was a faint shimmer of light, and the deepest cuts were partially healed, scabbed over as if they were days old instead of hours. "How did you?" Naruto started, but she was already looking exhausted from the effort. Using whatever power that had cost her, he could see it in the dimming of her glow, the way her eyes drooped slightly. "You should rest," he told her, though he had no idea if she understood. "You're safe here. I won't let anything hurt you." Kushina's eyes searched his face, and then she did something that surprised him. She shifted closer, resting her head against his shoulder. The gesture was so trusting, so vulnerable, that Naruto felt his throat tighten. When was the last time someone had trusted him? Has anyone ever? He carefully wrapped his arm around her, sharing what little warmth his body could provide. Her skin was cool to the touch but not cold, and her hair smelled like the sea, salt and mystery and something sweeter, like night-blooming flowers. "I've got you," he whispered. "Rest now." And impossibly she did. Her breathing. He wasn't sure if it was breathing exactly, but the rise and fall of her chest slowed and deepened. The glow of her skin dimmed to a faint shimmer, like moonlight on water. In sleep, the fierce warrior who'd fought the nets with such fury looked almost peaceful, almost fragile. Naruto stayed awake, keeping watch even though his own exhaustion pulled at him like an undertow. Through the mouth of the grotto, he could see the storm's last gasps, the sky slowly lightening from black to gray. Dawn was coming, and with it, questions he had no answers for. What was he going to do? He couldn't exactly bring a mermaid back to the village. They already thought he was cursed. Showing up with proof of sea monsters would probably get them both killed. But he couldn't leave her here either, not injured and alone. As if sensing his turmoil, Kushina stirred in her sleep, pressing closer to him. Her tail moved slightly, the scales catching the growing light, and Naruto marveled at her. She was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen, beautiful and terrible and completely impossible. And somehow, in the span of a single storm-racked night, she'd become his responsibility. His secret. His friend? Was that too presumptuous? But she trusted him enough to sleep in his arms, and he'd risked his life to free her. That had to count for something, even between different species, different worlds. The rain stopped as dawn broke, and Kushina's eyes opened. For a moment, she seemed disoriented, her body tensing, ready to flee or fight. Then her gaze found Naruto's face, and she relaxed, that same small smile from before touching her lips. She said something in her singing language, and though Naruto didn't understand the words, the tone was clear. "Thank you? You're welcome," he replied, meaning it with every fiber of his being. Kushina shifted, wincing slightly from her injuries, and looked down at herself. Then she looked at the water of the grotto, then back at Naruto. She made a questioning sound, pointing to the sea beyond. "You want to go back?" Naruto asked, unable to keep the disappointment from his voice. Of course she did. She had a home in the ocean, a life he knew nothing about. This had been a chance encounter, nothing more. But Kushina shook her head firmly. She pointed to herself, then to the grotto, then to Naruto, and made a gesture he interpreted as staying. Or maybe returning? It was hard to tell. "You want to stay here?" He gestured around the grotto. "Or come back here?" She seemed to understand that he was trying to communicate. She held up one finger, then made a diving motion. She pointed at the sky, the sun rising, then held up more fingers and made the diving motion again. A pattern. A schedule. "You'll come back?" Naruto asked, hope blooming in his chest like sunrise. "Here? You'll come back here to see me?" Kushina's smile was radiant. She nodded, then touched his face again, her fingers lingering on the whisker marks. She said something that sounded like a promise, like a vow, and then she leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his. The gesture felt sacred somehow, important. Naruto held perfectly still, afraid to breathe, afraid to break whatever spell this was. Energy passed between them, warm and electric, and for just a moment, he felt something vast and ancient, the ocean itself, perhaps, or the power that flowed through her veins. When she pulled back, her eyes were shining, not with tears but with that inner light that made her glow. She touched his chest one more time, right over his heart, then slipped into the water with barely a ripple. "Wait!" Naruto called out. "When? When will you come back?" Kushina surfaced, her red hair floating around her like a crimson halo. She pointed at the sky, made a gesture like a setting sun, then held up 3 fingers. 3 days? Naruto guessed. At sunset? 3 days from now? She nodded, then sang something that might have been his name, and Dove. The last thing he saw was the flash of her red tail, catching the morning light like a ruby, and then she was gone, disappearing into the depths as if she'd never been there at all. Naruto sat in the grotto for a long time after, staring at the water, wondering if he dreamed it all. But his hands were still cut, still bore the marks of her healing kiss. His coat was still damp with seawater, and stained with her strange blood. And in his chest, his heart beat with a rhythm it had never known before, the rhythm of hope. He had 3 days to prepare. 3 days to figure out what one said to a mermaid, how one communicated across the vast divide of their worlds. 3 days to anticipate something he'd never had before, someone who would choose to come back to him. The walk back to his shack felt different in the morning light. The village was emerging from the storm, people checking their homes and boats for damage. Naruto kept to the shadows, avoiding attention as always, but for once, the isolation didn't sting quite so much. He had a secret now. A beautiful, impossible secret named Kushina. As he reached his shack and began peeling off his wet clothes, Naruto caught sight of himself in the small, cracked mirror he kept by his wash basin. Same messy blonde hair. Same blue eyes. Same whisker marks that branded him as different, as other, as wrong. But for the first time in his life, when he looked at his reflection, he didn't see a demon child or a cursed orphan. He saw someone a mermaid had trusted. Someone she'd promised to return to. Someone who, perhaps, wasn't quite so alone after all. 3 days. He smiled at his reflection, and it smiled back, and somewhere in the depths of the ocean, he liked to think Kushina was smiling too. The storm had passed, but Naruto Uzumaki's life would never be the same. In the depths beyond the village, where sunlight faded to perpetual twilight, Kushina swam through the kelp forests with powerful strokes of her tail. Her wounds ached, but it was a distant thing, overwhelmed by the strange warmth in her chest. The boy. The human boy with the marked face and the kind eyes. She'd heard the stories, of course. Humans were cruel, greedy, destroyers of the sea. They took and gave nothing back. They polluted the waters with their waste and their greed, killed without purpose, disturbed the ancient balances. But Naruto had risked his life to free her. Had tended her wounds with gentle hands. Had held her as she slept, his heartbeat steady and true against her ear. And those marks on his face, she'd seen them before, in ancient carvings in the oldest parts of the Ocean Kingdom. Marks of power, of something greater than mere humanity. Her father would be furious if he knew she'd made contact with a human. Her brother would call her foolish. The elders would demand she never return to the surface, which was exactly why she would return. Kushina had never been good at following rules. Her temper, her impulsiveness, her refusal to accept because I said so as a valid argument, these had always set her apart from other merfolk. It was why she'd been in those cursed waters in the first place, exploring where she'd been forbidden to go, seeking adventure beyond the safe boundaries of her world. And she'd found it. Oh, how she'd found it. 3 days. In 3 days she would see him again. The boy who'd looked at her not with fear or greed, but with wonder. With recognition. As if he, too, knew what it was to be alone. Kushina smiled to herself as she swam, and deep in her chest, where her heart beat to the rhythm of tides and currents, she felt something new stirring. Something warm and bright and terrifying. Something that felt dangerously like hope. And in 3 days, when the sun set over the forbidden cove, 2 lonely souls would meet again, drawn together by forces neither fully understood but both were willing to trust. The ocean and the land, the mermaid and the boy, the beginning of something that would change both their worlds forever. But that was 3 days away. For now, they carried each other in their thoughts, counted the hours until sunset, and dared to believe that maybe, just maybe, they'd found what they'd both been searching for all along. Someone who saw them not as monsters or outcasts, but simply as themselves. And sometimes, that's where the greatest love stories begin. Naruto tried to go about his normal routine, checking his boat, mending nets, pretending that his entire world hadn't shifted on its axis. But his mind kept wandering to the forbidden cove, to violet eyes and crimson hair, to the impossible creature who had promised to return. He'd almost convinced himself it had been a fever dream, a hallucination brought on by the storm and exhaustion. But then he'd look at his hands, at the partially healed cuts that no human medicine could have mended so quickly, and he'd know. It had been real. She had been real. Kushina. The village was busy with storm cleanup, which meant people had less time to notice Naruto's distraction. He helped where he could, clearing debris from the docks, hauling damaged equipment, doing the grunt work no one else wanted. They accepted his labor without thanks, as always, but today it didn't bother him as much. He had a secret that made their silent contempt feel small and distant. That night, alone in his shack, Naruto found himself doing something he hadn't done in years. He cleaned. Really clean. He swept the floors, patched the worst of the leaks, organized his meager possessions. It wasn't much, but it was his space, and somehow the idea of telling Kushina about his life made him want it to look less pathetic. Then he laughed at himself. She lived in the ocean. What would she care about his shack? But the thought persisted. He wanted to share his world with her, wanted to show her the things that mattered to him, small as they were. The collection of interesting shells and stones he'd gathered over the years. The battered book of fairy tales the orphanage priestess had given him when he learned to read, the only gift he'd ever received. The small vegetable garden he tended behind his shack, coaxing life from the sandy soil. These were the pieces of his life, and for the first time, he wanted someone to see them. The second day was harder. Doubt crept in with the morning light. Why would she come back? She'd promised. But promises were easy to make and easier to break. She had an entire ocean to explore, a home and family somewhere in the depths. What was one strange human boy compared to all that? Maybe she'd only been grateful for the rescue. Maybe the moment she'd returned to her world, she'd forgotten all about him. Naruto tried to push the thoughts away, but they clung like barnacles. He went fishing in his usual spots, but the work felt hollow. The fish he caught would be sold to the village merchants for barely enough coin to buy rice and vegetables. The same routine, day after day, year after year. Alone. It was afternoon when Kakashi found him on the docks, sorting his catch. "You've been distracted," the old sailor observed, packing fresh tobacco into his pipe. "I'm fine," Naruto replied automatically. "Didn't say you weren't fine. Said you were distracted." Kakashi lit his pipe, the smoke curling into the salt-tinged air. "Something happened during the storm?" Naruto's heart skipped. "What? No. Why would something happen? Because you've got that look. The look people get when the world stops making sense." Kakashi's single eye studied him. "I've seen it before. Usually right before they do something stupid. I'm not going to do anything stupid. Good. Because there are rumors starting. Some of the fishermen are saying they saw strange lights in the Forbidden Cove during the storm. Red lights, like fire on water." He paused meaningfully. "You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" Naruto forced himself to keep sorting fish, to keep his hands steady. "Probably just lightning reflecting off the waves." "Probably," Kakashi agreed, but his tone suggested he didn't believe it for a second. "Just remember, boy, the sea keeps its secrets for a reason. Some things are better left alone." He walked away before Naruto could respond, leaving him alone with his racing thoughts and guilty conscience. That evening, Naruto went to the cove. He told himself he was just checking, just making sure the area was safe for tomorrow's sunset meeting. But really, he needed to be close to where he'd last seen her, needed to feel connected to the memory. The cove was peaceful in the fading light, the water calm and clear. No trace remained of the storm's fury or the desperate rescue. Even the nets were gone, probably washed out to sea or dragged away by the tide. Naruto sat on the rocks where he'd held Kushina, where she'd rested her head on his shoulder, and tried not to feel foolish. Tomorrow. If she didn't come tomorrow, then he'd know. He'd move on. He'd accept it. But the thought of moving on felt like drowning. He was about to leave when he heard it, a soft splash, different from the normal rhythm of waves. His head snapped toward the water, hope and fear warring in his chest. A sleek head broke the surface, but it wasn't Kushina. This creature was smaller, with silvery blue scales and enormous dark eyes. A seal? No, the shape was wrong. Another mermaid? The creature chirped at him, a sound like a dolphin's song, and swam closer. As it approached, Naruto realized it wasn't a mermaid at all. It was some kind of sea spirit, its body translucent and shimmering, barely more substantial than water itself. It circled near the rocks, studying him with curious intelligence, then dove. When it surfaced again, it was holding something in its mouth, a shell, deep purple and iridescent, unlike anything Naruto had seen before. The spirit swam to the edge of the rocks and deposited the shell at Naruto's feet, then chirped again, almost expectantly. "Is this for me?" Naruto asked, feeling ridiculous for talking to a sea spirit. It bobbed its head, definitely a nod, then dove again and was gone, melting back into the depths like it had never existed. Naruto picked up the shell with trembling hands. It was warm, warmer than any shell should be, and when he held it to his ear, he heard not the generic ocean sound of ordinary shells, but something else. A voice. Kushina's voice, singing a melody he didn't understand but felt in his bones. She'd sent him a message. Proof that she remembered, that she was still planning to return. Naruto held the shell to his chest and laughed, the sound echoing off the rocks. Tomorrow. She will come tomorrow. The third day dawned bright and clear, as if the world itself was celebrating. Naruto woke before sunrise, too excited to sleep. He bathed in the cold water from his well, scrubbing himself cleaner than he had in months. He dressed in his least patched clothes, ran his fingers through his perpetually messy hair in a futile attempt to tame it, and tried not to pace holes in his floor. The day crawled by with agonizing slowness. Every hour felt like 10. Naruto tried to keep busy, but everything he attempted to do felt pointless compared to the approaching sunset. Finally, when the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Naruto made his way to the Forbidden Cove. His heart hammered against his ribs, and his palms were sweating despite the cool evening breeze. What if she didn't come? What if the shell had been a goodbye gift? What if the water erupted in a spray of foam and light, and Kushina rose from the depths like a goddess of the sea? She was even more beautiful than Naruto remembered. Her crimson hair cascaded down her back in wet waves, adorned with small shells and what looked like bioluminescent sea flowers that glowed softly in the dimming light. Her tail shimmered with every movement, scales catching the sunset and throwing it back in 1,000 shades of red and gold. But it was her smile that stole his breath, bright and genuine, and meant entirely for him. Kushina. The name burst from his lips like a prayer. She laughed, a sound like bells and rushing water, and swam toward the rocks where he stood. When she reached them, she pulled herself up with effortless grace, her tail curling beneath her. Up close, Naruto could see that her injuries had healed completely, leaving no trace of the desperate rescue. "Naruto," she said, his name still accented with that musical quality that made it sound new and wonderful. They stared at each other for a long moment, and Naruto felt his face heat. What was he supposed to say? How did one make small talk with a mermaid? Kushina seemed to have no such reservations. She reached out and grabbed his hand, pulling him to sit beside her. Then she pointed to herself and said something in her language, a long, flowing sentence full of sounds he couldn't begin to replicate. "I don't understand," Naruto said apologetically. She frowned, thinking, then tried again. This time, she pointed to the water and made a swimming motion. Then she pointed to herself and made an upward gesture, toward the surface. "You came up? From deep water?" She nodded enthusiastically, then held her hands far apart, indicating distance or depth. She'd come a long way to see him. Something warm bloomed in Naruto's chest. "Thank you," he said softly. "Thank you for coming back." Kushina tilted her head, not understanding the words but seeming to catch their meaning. She touched his face again, tracing those whisker marks she seemed so fascinated by, then pointed at them and made a questioning sound. "You want to know about these?" Naruto touched his own cheek. "I don't really know. I was born with them. The villagers think they're a curse, a mark of demons." He laughed bitterly. "Maybe they're right." Kushina's expression shifted to something fierce. She shook her head vehemently, then took both his hands and placed them over her heart. He could feel it beating, slower and stronger than a human heart, powerful as the tide. She said something emphatically, and though he didn't understand the words, the meaning was clear. "You are not cursed." "I wish I could understand you," Naruto said. "Really understand you, not just guess." She seemed to consider this, her brow furrowing in concentration. Then her eyes lit up, and she made an excited gesture, "Wait here," and dove back into the water. She was gone for several minutes, long enough that Naruto started to worry. But then she surfaced, holding something that looked like a piece of coral, glowing with soft blue light. Kushina climbed back onto the rocks and held the coral out to him. When he took it, she guided his hand to his forehead, then touched her own forehead with the other end of the coral. Light flared between them, bright and electric, and Naruto gasped. Images flooded his mind, not words exactly, but concepts, feelings, meanings. The ocean depths. A massive underwater city of pearl and coral. Kushina's memories, flowing into him like water, and with the memories came understanding. "Can you hear me?" Kushina's voice, actual words in his mind, accented but clear. The translator coral. "It should work now. I can understand you," Naruto exclaimed. "How? Magic," Kushina said simply, grinning at his amazed expression. "Old magic, from before the separation of land and sea. We don't use it often. Most merfolk have no interest in speaking with humans, but I borrowed it from the royal treasury." "Borrowed or stolen?" Naruto asked, somehow sensing the truth. Her grin turned mischievous. "What's the difference? I'm a princess. Technically, everything in the treasury belongs to my family." "You're a princess? Was that not obvious from my stunning beauty and regal bearing?" She flipped her hair dramatically, and Naruto couldn't help but laugh. "Why didn't you go back to your kingdom after I freed you? Wouldn't they have better healers than me?" Kushina's expression sobered. "I couldn't go back. Not then, maybe not ever." She looked out at the darkening sea. "I was exiled, Naruto. Or I will be, if my father finds out what I did." "What did you do?" "I lost my temper." She said it simply, but there was pain beneath the words. "I'm the youngest princess, and I have power, too much power," my tutors always said. "Power without control." During a court ceremony, one of the nobles insulted my mother's memory. She died when I was young and She gestured, and the water around them rippled with unseen force. I unleashed a tidal wave inside the throne room. 3 ministers drowned. The diplomatic envoy from the Coral Kingdom was injured. It was a disaster. "That's why you were in the Forbidden Cove." "I'd been living in exile in the outer territories, forbidden from returning to court until I learned to control my destructive impulses." She made air quotes with her fingers, a gesture she must have learned from watching humans. "But I got bored. The outer territories are safe and boring, and I wanted adventure. So I came to the surface, to the dangerous waters my tutors always warned me about, and got caught in cursed nets, and met you." Her expression softened. "The boy who risked his life for a monster." "You're not a monster," Naruto said firmly, says the boy with demon marks on his face. But she smiled as she said it. "We're quite a pair, aren't we? The exiled princess and the cursed orphan." "I like the sound of that," Naruto admitted. Being a pair, they sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the stars begin to emerge in the darkening sky. Then Kushina spoke again. "Tell me about your world, Naruto. What's it like living on land? Having legs instead of a tail?" "I've watched humans from afar, but I've never really understood them," so Naruto told her. He told her about the village, about growing up in the orphanage, about the loneliness of being feared and shunned. He told her about his shack, his boat, the simple pleasures of a warm meal and dry clothes. He described seasons. The concept of snow amazed her, and stars, and the feeling of earth beneath your feet. In return, Kushina told him about the ocean depths, about cities built from living coral that sang in harmony with the currents. She described hunts for giant squid, races with dolphins, the bioluminescent gardens that bloomed in the deepest trenches. She told him about her brothers, 3 of them, all older, all disappointed in their wild little sister, and her father, the Ocean King, stern and powerful and impossible to please. "He wants me to marry," she said with disgust, "to some boring noble from the Abyss Kingdom. For political alliance. As if I'm a trading chit instead of a person." "You don't want to marry him?" "I don't want to marry anyone my father chooses. If I marry, it will be for love, for choice, not because it benefits some political scheme." Her eyes flashed with that fierce fire Naruto was coming to recognize. "I want to choose my own path, my own life." "Is that so wrong?" No, Naruto said quietly. That's not wrong at all. Their eyes met, and something passed between them, something electric and dangerous and wonderful. Tell me about your dreams, Naruto, Kushina said softly. What do you want from life? No one had ever asked him that before. Naruto had to think about it, really think about it. I want to matter, he finally said. I want to be more than just the cursed kid everyone avoids. I want to have friends, family, people who actually care if I live or die. I want to be seen, he laughed self-consciously. Stupid, right? Not stupid at all. Kushina's hand found his. I see you, Naruto. I care if you live or die. The sincerity in her voice made his throat tight. I see you too, Kushina. Not just a princess or an exile. I see you. They sat holding hands as the moon rose over the ocean, silver light painting the water in shades of mercury and magic. Kushina began to sing, soft and low, a melody that seemed to make the very air shimmer. It wasn't in any language. It was pure emotion, pure beauty, and it made Naruto's heart ache with something he couldn't name. When she finished, he realized he was crying. That was beautiful, he whispered. It's a song my mother used to sing to me. About finding your place in the world, about belonging. She wiped a tear from his cheek with gentle fingers. You make me feel like I belong, Naruto. Like maybe I'm not as broken as everyone says. You're not broken. You're perfect. She laughed, but there was a catch in it. Who says me? They stayed at the cove until the moon was high, and the tide had turned twice. They talked about everything and nothing, shared stories and dreams and fears. Kushina showed him simple water magic, making the waves dance and forming shapes from foam. Naruto told her about the constellations his orphanage teacher had shown him, pointing out the shapes in the stars. It was Kushina who finally noticed how cold he'd gotten, his lips blue and his body shivering despite his attempts to hide it. You need to go home, she said, concerned. Humans are so fragile in the cold. I don't want to leave, neither do I. But I won't have you freezing to death, you idiot. She cupped his face in her hands. We'll meet again. Tomorrow? Same time? Tomorrow, Naruto agreed. And the day after. And the day after that. Every day, Kushina promised. Until the ocean runs dry or the sky falls, I'll come back to you. It should have sounded ridiculous, melodramatic. Instead, it sounded like a vow. Kushina leaned forward and pressed her forehead to his again, that gesture of intimacy and trust. Energy hummed between them, warm and electric, and Naruto felt it down to his bones. Sleep well, Naruto Uzumaki, she whispered. You too, Kushina. What's your last name? She grinned. Uzumaki, actually. In the ancient tongue of the sea, it means whirlpool. We're named for the maelstrom that guard our kingdom. Naruto stared at her. My name means maelstrom too. Their eyes widened in unison, recognizing the impossible coincidence. Or was it a coincidence at all? Maybe we were always meant to meet, Kushina said softly. Maybe we were. She kissed his forehead, just a gentle press of lips to skin, and then she was gone, diving into the moonlit water with barely a splash. Naruto watched until the last shimmer of her tail disappeared into the depths, then made his way home in a daze. He was in love. The realization hit him as he walked through the sleeping village, and it should have terrified him. She was a mermaid. He was human. Their worlds were separated by more than just water, by biology, by culture, by the very nature of reality itself. But somehow, none of that mattered. What mattered was her laugh, her fierce spirit, the way she looked at him like he was someone worth knowing. What mattered was the connection between them, instant and undeniable, like two pieces of the same soul finally finding each other. Naruto fell asleep that night with a smile on his face and the translator coral clutched in his hand, already counting the hours until sunset. In the ocean depths, Kushina swam through the dark water with similar thoughts swirling in her mind. She should go back to her exiled territory, and should stop risking exposure by visiting the surface. If her father found out she was consorting with a human, her exile would become permanent. She might even be stripped of her powers, made fully mortal as punishment. But the thought of not seeing Naruto again was physically painful. She reached her hidden grotto, a small cave system she'd claimed as her own during her exile, and curled up in a bed of soft kelp. The translator coral had a twin, still connected to the one she'd given Naruto, and she held it close to her heart. Through the connection, faint and distant, she could feel him. His warmth, his presence, the steady rhythm of his sleeping mind. It was improper, invasive even, but she couldn't make herself sever the connection. For the first time in her life, she didn't feel alone. Whatever came next, consequences, complications, conflicts, Kushina knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would face it all if it meant keeping Naruto in her life. Some things were worth any price. And as both the mermaid princess and the orphan boy drifted into dreams, they dreamed of each other, of a future that seemed impossible but felt inevitable. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. The days that followed established a pattern. Every sunset, Naruto would go to the Forbidden Cove, and Kushina would be there waiting. They talked for hours, sharing their worlds with each other, learning and growing together. Kushina taught Naruto about ocean magic, and he discovered he had a strange affinity for it. When she guided him through the basic exercises, his hands would glow with blue-white energy, and the water would respond to his will in ways that shocked them both. "You have power," Kushina said one evening, watching him shape water into an orb floating above his palm. "Real power. I've never seen a human do this. Maybe it's the marks?" Naruto suggested, touching his whisker scars. "You said they looked familiar." "They do. But I can't remember where I've seen them." She frowned, concentration creasing her brow. "Something in the old archives, maybe? Images from before the Great Separation." "What's the Great Separation?" Kushina settled in to tell the story, her voice taking on the cadence of an old legend. "Long ago, before history was written, land and sea were one. Humans and merfolk lived side by side, sharing magic and knowledge. But then came the war. No one remembers what started it, but it nearly destroyed both worlds. In the end, a great sealing was performed. The land and sea were separated, and barriers were erected to keep them apart. Most magic was locked away on one side or the other, but some remained," Naruto guessed. "Exactly. Echoes of the old power. The royal bloodlines kept the strongest magic, but even ordinary merfolk have some abilities." She gestured to the water around them. "And apparently, so do you. Do you think I'm descended from someone magical? Maybe. Or maybe you're something else entirely." She poked his whisker marks playfully. "Maybe you're part sea creature yourself, and no one told you." They laughed, but the question lingered. What was Naruto, really? Just a cursed orphan, or something more? Their meetings became the center of both their lives. Naruto found himself living for the evenings, counting down the hours until he could see Kushina again. The village work that had once filled his days became a tedious obligation, something to endure until the sun began its descent. Kushina was equally devoted. She would arrive at the cove early, waiting with barely contained excitement for Naruto to appear. She brought him gifts from the ocean, pearls and strange shells, edible seaweed that tasted like nothing on land, even a dagger made from a swordfish bill, incredibly sharp and balanced. "For protection," she said when she gave it to him. "In case you ever need it." "From what?" "From anything." Her expression was serious. "The world is more dangerous than you know, Naruto. There are things in the deep, and things on land too, that would hurt you if they knew what you were becoming." "What am I becoming?" "Someone important," she said simply. "I can feel it." But their happiness couldn't remain secret forever. It was Kakashi who confronted Naruto first, catching him on his way to the cove one evening. "We need to talk," the old sailor said, his tone brooking no argument. Naruto's heart sank, but he followed Kakashi to a quiet spot away from the village. "I know about the mermaid," Kakashi said without preamble. Naruto's blood ran cold. "I don't know what you're. Don't lie to me, boy. I've been watching. I've seen you sneaking off to the Forbidden Cove every night. I've seen the way you smile these days, like you've got a secret." Kakashi's single eye was sharp. "And I saw her. Just a glimpse, but I saw her." "Are you going to tell the village?" "That depends." "What are your intentions with her?" The question caught Naruto off guard. "My intentions? Are you using her? Playing with her for entertainment? Because sea folk have long memories and terrible vengeance. And I don't want to see this village destroyed because you broke a mermaid's heart." "I would never." Naruto's voice was fierce. "I care about her. I really care about her. She's the first person who's ever..." He struggled for words. She sees me. The real me. Not the cursed kid or the demon child. Just me. Kakashi studied him for a long moment, then sighed. You're in love with her. It wasn't a question, but Naruto nodded anyway. Yes. You know it's impossible, right? She's not human. You can't have a future together. I know, Naruto said quietly. But I can have a present. I can have it right now. And that's enough. Is it? Is it really? Kakashi's expression was almost pitiful. What happens when she has to return to her world? What happens when her family finds out? What happens when you realize you're in love with someone you can never truly be with? I don't know, Naruto admitted. But I'd rather have her for a little while than never have her at all. Kakashi shook his head. You're going to get your heart broken, kid. Shattered into pieces so small you'll never put them back together. Maybe. But at least I'll know what it feels like to have a heart in the first place. The old sailor had no answer to that. He just clasped Naruto's shoulder briefly, a gesture of understanding if not approval, and walked away. Naruto continued to the cove, his mind churning. Kakashi was right. Their situation was impossible. But when he arrived and saw Kushina waiting for him, her face lighting up at the sight of him, all the logical reasons they shouldn't be together melted away. You look troubled, Kushina said, pulling him down to sit beside her. What's wrong? He told her about Kakashi's warning, about the impossibility of their situation. He expected her to be worried, to pull away. Instead, she laughed. Of course it's impossible, she said. Everything worthwhile is impossible, until someone makes it possible. You think my ancestors thought it was possible to build cities underwater? To breathe in the depths? To shape the very ocean to their will? That's different. It's not different at all. She took his hands, her grip strong and sure. Listen to me, Naruto. I don't care if it's impossible. I don't care if the whole ocean rises up against us. I don't care if my father sends an army. I'm not giving you up. Kushina, no. Listen. Do you know what the rarest thing in the world is? Not magic. Not power. Not even love, really. It's finding someone who sees you, truly sees you, and chooses you anyway. Not because you're perfect, but because your flaws fit with theirs. Because together, you're better than you are apart. She pressed her forehead to his, that intimate gesture that had become theirs. You're my person, Naruto. However impossible, however complicated, however dangerous it gets, you're mine, and I'm yours. And I'll fight anyone who says differently, including fate itself. Naruto felt tears burning behind his eyes. No one had ever fought for him before. No one had ever chosen him. I love you, he whispered, the words escaping before he could stop them. Kushina's eyes widened, then softened. Say it again. I love you, Kushina. Again. I love you. She kissed him. It was his first kiss, and it was perfect. Her lips were cool and soft, tasting of salt and something sweeter, like sea grapes and starlight. Energy crackled between them, magic responding to emotion, and the water around their rock began to glow with bioluminescent light. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Kushina was crying. I love you too, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I love you so much it terrifies me. They held each other as the night deepened, two impossible beings making impossible promises. And somewhere in the darkness, forces were already moving, drawn by the power of their connection. The ocean was watching, and soon, it would respond. Yes. Kushina noticed it first. The currents that normally flowed through the coastal waters had slowed to barely a whisper. The fish that usually teemed in the shallows had retreated to deeper waters. Even the kelp forests seemed to hold their breath, swaying less than usual in the diminished tide. Something's wrong, she told Naruto during their evening meeting. The sea is waiting for something. Waiting for what? I don't know. But in my experience, when the ocean goes quiet like this, it's usually right before a storm. Or something worse. Naruto wanted to dismiss her concerns, but he'd learned to trust Kushina's instincts about the sea. And truth be told, he'd noticed changes on land too. The village fishermen were reporting strange catches, fish from deep waters appearing in shallow nets, creatures that shouldn't be near shore washing up on the beach. Maybe we should stop meeting for a while, Naruto suggested reluctantly. Just until whatever this is passes. Kushina's eyes flashed with that familiar fire. Absolutely not. I'm not letting some weird ocean moods keep me from you. But if it's dangerous, then we'll face it together. She grabbed his hand, squeezing tight. No more running, Naruto. Not from each other. He couldn't argue with that logic, even though worry gnawed at his gut. That night, Naruto had strange dreams. He saw an underwater palace of impossible beauty, all pearl and coral and bioluminescent gardens. He saw a throne room where a massive figure sat, humanoid but clearly not human, crowned with what looked like living sea creatures, eyes that glowed with ancient power. The Ocean King, he somehow knew, Kushina's father, and in the dream, the Ocean King was looking directly at him. You dare touch my daughter, Landwalker? The voice was the ocean itself, vast and crushing. You dare corrupt her with your mortal taint? Naruto tried to speak, to defend himself, but no words came out. The water around him began to press in, crushing, drowning. He woke gasping, drenched in sweat. The translator coral clutched so tight in his hand it had left marks on his palm. It was still dark outside. Hours until dawn, longer still until he could see Kushina again. But the dream had felt too real, too much like a warning. Through the coral's connection, he could sense her sleeping, her presence calm and steady. She was safe. For now. Naruto didn't sleep again that night. The next evening, Kushina arrived at the cove early and clearly agitated. We need to talk, she said as soon as Naruto appeared. Something's happened. His stomach dropped. What? My brother sent a message. Through the current speakers, the ones that relay information across long distances. She was pacing on the rocks, her tail lashing with nervous energy. He's coming here, tomorrow at sunset. He wants to talk. Is that bad? It's very bad. My brothers don't leave the capital unless commanded by our father. If Menma is coming here, it means father knows something. Maybe not everything, but something. Which brother is Menma, the middle one? Not as ruthless as Kyubi, the eldest, but more cunning than Kurama, the youngest. She bit her lip, a nervous gesture Naruto had never seen from her before. He's also the one our father trusts most to handle delicate situations. And I'm in a delicate situation. We are in a delicate situation. She stopped pacing and looked at him. I won't lie to you, Naruto. This is serious. If my father has sent Menma, he's not going to just accept us being together. There will be consequences. What kind of consequences? For me? Probably permanent exile. Stripping of my royal status. Maybe even binding my powers so I can't access them anymore. She swallowed hard. For you? I don't know. My father's not cruel, but he's very traditional. Humans and merfolk don't mix. It's one of our oldest laws. Why? Because of the Great Separation. The war between our peoples nearly destroyed both worlds. When peace was finally made, strict boundaries were established. We stay in our realm, you stay in yours. The only exceptions are trained ambassadors, and even they rarely interact directly. Naruto felt his world tilting. He'd known their relationship was forbidden, but he hadn't fully grasped the scope of what that meant. So what do? We face it. Kushina's jaw set in that stubborn line he'd come to know and love. Tomorrow, when Menma arrives, we will tell him the truth, that we love each other, that we're not giving each other up, and that he can report that to father if he wants. That seems like a good way to make things worse, maybe. But I'm done hiding, Naruto. I'm done being ashamed of what I feel. She moved to him, taking both his hands. I love you. That's not wrong, no matter what ancient laws say, and I'm going to fight for you, even if it costs you everything, especially if it costs me everything. Her smile was fierce and beautiful. Because you're worth it. You're worth more than a throne I never wanted, more than powers I can barely control, more than the approval of a father who's never understood me anyway. Naruto pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. I don't want you to lose everything because of me. You're not making me do anything. This is my choice. She pulled back to look at him. But I need to know, is it yours too? Because once we face Menma tomorrow, there's no going back. Everyone will know. Your village, my kingdom, both our worlds. Are you ready for that? Was he? Naruto thought about his life in the village, the loneliness, the contempt, the endless cycle of isolation. He had nothing to lose there, but Kushina had family status, a whole world she'd be turning her back on. I love you, he said simply. Whatever comes, I love you. And I'll stand with you, then we'll face it together. She kissed him, soft and sweet, then rested her forehead against his. Tomorrow changes everything. Tonight, let's just be us. They spent that evening in the cove, talking about small things and large ones, making memories to hold on to no matter what tomorrow brought. Kushina taught him a mermaid lullaby that made the water dance. Naruto told her about the constellation his mother, whoever she had been, must have seen from the shore the night she left him at the orphanage. Maybe she had no choice, Kushina said gently. Maybe she loved you but couldn't keep you. Or maybe she just didn't want a cursed child. Then she was a fool. Kushina's voice was fierce. Because you're the best thing I've ever found. They held each other as the moon rose, and neither wanted to let go. Because tomorrow, the ocean would come calling. And nothing would ever be the same. Sunset came too quickly. Naruto arrived at the cove to find Kushina already there. But she wasn't alone. Beside her on the rock sat another merperson, male, with a tail of deep blue-green scales and hair the same crimson as Kushina's but cut shorter, more severe. His face was angular and aristocratic, his eyes the same violet as his sister's but colder, more calculating. This had to be Menma. You must be human, Menma said, his voice carrying the musical quality of all merfolk but with an edge of steel beneath it. He was using the common tongue, speaking without a translator choral. Naruto Uzumaki, and you're Kushina's brother. Naruto climbed down to the rocks, forcing himself not to show the fear churning in his gut. She's told me about you. Nothing good, I'm sure. Menma's expression didn't change. My sister has never been fond of any of her family. That's not true, Kushina protested. I just don't like being told what to do, which is precisely why we're in this situation. Menma turned his attention back to Naruto, studying him with an intensity that felt like being dissected. You're younger than I expected, and those marks on your face, Kushina mentioned them, but seeing them in person is different. They're definitely seal marks. Very old ones? Seal marks? Naruto touched his whiskers self-consciously. Marks left by powerful sealing magic. The kind that binds great power or great danger. Menma leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. What are you, Naruto Uzumaki? You're clearly not entirely human. I don't know what I am. I've had these marks since birth. Interesting. Menma sat back, his tail curling beneath him. Well, regardless of your mysterious origins, we have a more pressing matter to discuss. Kushina, our father knows about your relationship with this human. Kushina's face went pale. How much does he know? Enough. One of the current speakers detected unusual magical resonance in these waters, the kind that occurs when mere magic mixes with something else. When father investigated, he discovered you've been meeting a human in secret for weeks. Menma's tone was matter-of-fact, almost boring. He's not pleased. I don't care if he's pleased or not, Kushina said, but her voice shook slightly. I love Naruto, and I'm not giving him up. Yes, Kushina. You've made your feelings abundantly clear through your actions. Menma sighed. Which is why father sent me to present you with a choice. What kind of choice? Menma's eyes flicked to Naruto, then back to his sister. You may continue this relationship, under one condition. The human must prove himself worthy through the 3 trials of the deep. Kushina's eyes went wide. No. Absolutely not. Those trials are designed to kill humans. They're designed to test them, Menma corrected. If this boy truly loves you, if he's truly willing to sacrifice for you, then he should have no problem passing them. What are these trials? Naruto asked, even as Kushina gripped his arm in warning. Menma smiled, and it wasn't a kind expression. The 3 trials of the deep are ancient tests, created after the Great Separation to determine if a human is worthy of joining with a mare. They haven't been invoked in over 200 years because no human has attempted them in that long. What do they involve? The first trial is the trial of courage. You must retrieve a scale from Ryujin, the ancient sea dragon who guards the Pearl of Tides. Ryujin does not part with his treasures willingly, and his lair is littered with the bones of those who've tried to steal from him. Naruto swallowed hard, but kept his expression steady. And the second trial? The trial of endurance. You must descend to the crushing depths, the lowest point in our ocean, and survive there for one full night without drowning, without being crushed by the pressure, and without losing your mind to the darkness. Merfolk can survive those depths. Humans cannot. And the third? The trial of purity. You must present yourself before my father, the Ocean King himself, and allow him to judge your heart. If he finds any deception, any hidden malice, any ulterior motive for wanting Kushina, the ocean claims you. Forever. The cove fell silent except for the gentle lap of waves against rock. And if I pass all three trials? Naruto asked quietly. Then by ancient law, Kushina may choose to transform into a human permanently, and you may marry without opposition from our kingdom. Menma's expression was unreadable. Of course, the transformation is irreversible. She would lose her tail, her mere powers, her connection to the ocean. She would become fully mortal, able to drown, to age, to die as humans do. No, Kushina said immediately. Naruto, you're not doing this. These trials are suicide. But they're possible, right? Naruto looked at Menma. Humans have passed them before? Technically, yes. 3 humans in all of recorded history have passed the trials. Menma paused. 2 of them still died shortly after from injuries sustained during the trials. The third. He hesitated. The third became the first ambassador between our worlds. But that was 3,000 years ago, before the great separation. So it can be done. Naruto, no! Kushina grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. I won't let you risk your life like this. We'll find another way. What other way? Naruto asked gently. Your brother just said this is the only option. Either I prove myself through the trials, or we can never be together. Not really. We'd always be hiding, always looking over our shoulders. I don't care. I'd rather hide with you than lose you to the ocean, but I care. Naruto took her hands. Kushina, you deserve better than a life in hiding. You deserve to make your own choices, to be with whoever you want without shame or fear. If these trials give us that chance, they'll kill you, maybe. Or maybe I'll surprise everyone. He managed a shaky smile. I've been surprising people my whole life. Might as well keep the streak going. This isn't funny. Tears were streaming down her face now. You could die, Naruto. You could actually die. I know. He wiped her tears with gentle thumbs. But isn't that better than slowly dying inside because I can't be with you? I'd rather risk one moment of courage than live a lifetime of cowardice. Menma watched this exchange with something that might have been respect flickering in his cold eyes. You have spirit, human. I'll give you that. But spirit alone won't protect you from Ryujin's fire or the crushing depths pressure. Maybe not. But it's a start. Naruto turned to face him fully. I accept the trials. When do I begin? Naruto, please, Kushina's voice broke. I have to do this. He looked back at her, and his eyes were full of love and determination. For us. For a future where we don't have to hide. Menma nodded slowly. Very well. The trials will begin in 3 days, at the dark of the moon. That gives you time to prepare. Not that preparation will help much. I'll return then to escort you to the first trial. He paused. There are rules, Naruto Uzumaki. Once the trials begin, Kushina cannot help you in any way. She cannot use her magic to protect you, cannot guide you, cannot interfere. If she does, you both forfeit, and the ocean claims you both. I understand. Do you? Menma's gaze was sharp. Because the ocean doesn't bluff, human. If you fail, you die. There's no rescue, no second chances. The moment you enter the trials, you belong to the sea. It decides whether you live or die. Then I'd better not fail. Menma studied him for a long moment, then something like a smile crossed his face. You know what? I think I might actually like you, Naruto Uzumaki. It's a shame you'll probably be dead in a week. He slipped back into the water. 3 days. Be ready. He vanished beneath the waves, leaving Naruto and Kushina alone. Kushina immediately grabbed Naruto, holding him so tight he could barely breathe. She was trembling, her whole body shaking with silent sobs. You idiot, she whispered. You absolute idiot. Why did you agree to this? Because I love you. Because this is the only way. He held her just as tight. And because I have to believe there's a reason I survived everything life has thrown at me. Maybe this is it. Maybe I was meant to face these trials. You're going to die. She pulled back, her eyes red and swollen. You're going to die. And it will be my fault for being selfish enough to love you. Hey. He cupped her face. Look at me. I'm not going to die. I'm going to pass these trials, and then we're going to have a life together. A real life. No more hiding, no more shame. Just us. You can't promise that. Watch me. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. I promise you, Kushina Uzumaki. I'm going to survive, and I'm going to make you mine. Officially. Forever. She laughed through her tears. You're insane, probably. But you love me anyway. I do. She kissed him desperately, pouring all her fear and love and hope into it. I love you so much it hurts. They spent the rest of the evening in the cove, and Kushina told him everything she knew about the trials. About Ryujin, the ancient dragon who'd guarded the ocean's treasures since the world was young. About the crushing depths, where the pressure could turn a human body into pulp in seconds. About her father, the Ocean King, whose judgment was absolute, and whose power was vast enough to level islands. The first trial is about more than just courage, she explained. Ryujin is ancient and wise. He won't just give you his scale, you'll have to prove you deserve it. He respects strength, but he values wisdom more, so I have to outsmart a dragon, essentially. And Naruto? Ryujin has killed hundreds of warriors, mare and human alike. Don't underestimate him. I won't, for the second trial. She hesitated. The crushing depths are in the darkest part of the ocean, where no light reaches. You'll be completely alone, in absolute darkness, with pressure that should kill you instantly. The only way to survive is to find inner peace, to accept death so completely that it has no power over you. That sounds impossible. It is impossible. For most people. She touched his chest. But you have something most people don't. That seal on your face, it's connected to something powerful. I can feel it. If you can tap into that power, you might survive. And the third trial? That one simple in concept but hardest in practice. My father will look into your soul. He'll see every doubt, every fear, every selfish thought you've ever had. If he finds anything he deems unworthy, any hint that you might hurt me, use me, or that your love is anything less than absolute, he'll kill you where you stand. Naruto absorbed this, the weight of what he'd agreed to settling on his shoulders like stones. 3 trials, each designed to kill him. 3 chances to prove himself. Or die trying. I'm still going to do it, he said quietly. I know. Kushina rested her head on his shoulder. That's what terrifies me. You're just stupid enough, just brave enough, just stubborn enough to actually try. They sat in silence for a while, and then Kushina spoke again, her voice small. What if I asked you not to? What? What if I asked you to refuse the trials? To just run away with me instead? We could find somewhere far from here, somewhere either your people nor mine would find us. We could have a life, just a different kind of life. Naruto considered it. It was tempting, the thought of escaping all of this, of just being with Kushina without trials or tests or ancient laws. But we'd always be running, he said. Always hiding. And eventually, they'd find us. Your father, my village, someone. And when they did, we'd have no protection, no legal right to be together. He squeezed her hand. I want more for us than that. I want you to be able to hold your head high, to be proud of choosing me. The trials give us that chance. Even if they kill you, even then. Because at least I'll have tried. At least I'll have fought for something that matters. Kushina was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. You know what the worst part is? I can't even be mad at you for this, because it's exactly what I would do in your place. We're the same, you and I. Too stubborn to know when to quit. It's one of your most attractive qualities. She laughed despite her tears. We're both idiots. The best kind of idiots. As the night deepened, Kushina began to sing. Not a lullaby this time, but something older, sadder. A song about warriors going to battle, about lovers separated by duty and fate, about the courage it takes to face impossible odds. Naruto held her close and listened, committing every note to memory. This song, this moment, her voice, these were the things he would hold onto in the trials ahead. When darkness threatened to swallow him, when dragons breathed fire, when the Ocean King's judgment pressed down like the weight of the sea itself, he would remember this. Remember her. Remember why he was fighting, and he would survive. He had to, because Kushina was worth any trial, any test, any danger the ocean could throw at him. She was worth everything. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation and dread. Naruto spent his mornings gathering what little supplies he could, a watertight bag, a length of rope, his swordfish-billed dagger. Not that any of it would help against the dragon or the crushing pressure of the deep, but it made him feel slightly less helpless. Kakashi found him on the second day, inspecting his boat. Heard from the fisherman that the ocean's acting strange again, the old sailor said, lighting his pipe. Currents changing, strange lights in the deep water. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Naruto debated lying, but what was the point? I'm about to undergo some trials. Ocean trials. For Kushina, Kakashi's single eye widened. The mermaid? Boy, what have you gotten yourself into? Something that might kill me. Or might give us a chance at a real future. Naruto met his gaze. I love her, Kakashi. I really love her, and if there's even the smallest chance we can be together properly, I have to take it. The old sailor was quiet for a long moment, puffing on his pipe. Then he sighed. You're a damn fool, Naruto Uzumaki. But you're a brave damn fool. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small, worn compass. This belonged to my father. It always points home, no matter how lost you get. Take it. Maybe it'll help you find your way back. Naruto took the compass with trembling hands. It was the first real gift anyone from the village had ever given him. Thank you? Don't thank me yet. Thank you if you survive. Kakashi clasped his shoulder. Good luck, boy. Give that dragon hell. Kushina spent every evening with Naruto, teaching him techniques for holding his breath, for staying calm under pressure, for finding his center when panic threatened. She couldn't help him directly in the trials, but she could prepare him as much as possible. Remember, she said on the last night before the trials? Ryujin respects honesty above all else. Don't try to trick him or steal from him. Be direct, be respectful, and be true. It's your best chance. What if being honest isn't enough? Then at least you'll die with your integrity intact. She tried to smile, but it came out wrong. Sorry. That's not helpful. Actually, it kind of is. Naruto pulled her close. I'd rather die honest than live as a liar. They made love that night for the first time, Kushina using her magic to temporarily transform her tail into legs, a transformation that left her gasping and shaking from the pain. But she insisted, wanting to be with him fully before the trials began. In case you don't come back, she whispered against his skin. In case this is all we get. I'm coming back, Naruto promised. I swear it. Afterward, they lay tangled together on the rocks, her temporary legs already beginning to revert back to her tail. She traced the whisker marks on his face, memorizing every detail. These marks, she said softly. I finally remembered where I saw them before. In the oldest archives, in texts about the Great Separation, there was a warrior, half human and half beast, who fought to bridge both worlds. He had marks like these. What happened to him? The records don't say. They just call him the Bridge Walker. The one who could move between worlds that others couldn't. She looked at him intently. I think that's what you are, Naruto. I think you were meant to bridge worlds too. Our worlds. No pressure then, he tried to joke. I'm serious. You're special. Not because of these trials, not because of me. You've always been special. The world just hasn't realized it yet. Naruto felt tears prick his eyes. I don't feel special. I feel terrified. Good. That means you understand how dangerous this is. She kissed him softly. But you're going to do it anyway, because you're also incredibly stubborn. Take one to know one. She smiled, and for a moment, everything felt normal. Like they were just two people in love, with no trials ahead, no ancient laws, no impossible odds. But the moment couldn't last forever. As dawn approached, Menma emerged from the water, his expression unreadable. "It's time," he said simply. "The dark moon is upon us. Naruto Uzumaki, are you ready to face the 3 trials of the deep?" Naruto stood, his legs shaking but his voice steady. "I am." "Then say your goodbyes. Once we descend, you won't see the surface again until the trials are complete. One way or another." Kushina threw her arms around him, holding him so tight it hurt. "Come back to me," she whispered fiercely. "Promise me you'll come back." "I promise." He kissed her one last time, trying to pour all his love, all his determination, all his hope into it. "I love you, Kushina Uzumaki. Wait for me. Always." Menma cleared his throat. "We need to go. The dragon waits for no one." Naruto forced himself to let go of Kushina, to step toward the water where Menma waited. The merman held out a strange object, a spherical charm made of woven kelp and shells, glowing with soft blue light. "This will allow you to breathe underwater and withstand the pressure during your descent. But it won't protect you from Ryujin's fire, the crushing depth's darkness, or my father's judgment. Those you face alone." Naruto took the charm and pressed it to his chest. It dissolved into his skin with a tingling sensation, and suddenly he could feel the ocean differently, as welcoming rather than threatening, as breathable as air. "Ready?" Menma asked. No, Naruto thought. "I'll never be ready." But he nodded anyway. "Then let the trials begin." Naruto dove into the water, Menma beside him, and they began the descent into the deep. Into the unknown. Into trial by fire, by pressure, by judgment. Behind them, on the rocks, Kushina watched until they disappeared from sight. And then she began to pray to God she'd long ago stopped believing in, because the boy she loved was swimming toward death. And all she could do was wait, and hope, and believe that love was stronger than ancient trials. That love was stronger than anything, even the ocean itself. At first, the water was familiar. The sun-dappled shallows Naruto had fished for his whole life. Fish darted around him, curious about the human who could suddenly breathe their world. The kelp forest swayed in gentle currents, and everything was bathed in golden green light. Then they dropped deeper, and the light began to fade. Menma swam with practiced ease, his powerful tail propelling them downward with barely any effort. Naruto had to work harder, kicking his legs in the unfamiliar environment, but the breathing charm made it possible. More than possible, exhilarating. He was breathing water like air, moving through the ocean like he'd been born to it. Your body adapts quickly, Menma observed, glancing back. Most humans panic at this depth. The pressure alone should be making you uncomfortable. Naruto didn't feel uncomfortable. If anything, he felt more alive than he ever had on land. The water welcomed him, embraced him, sang to him in voices he could almost understand. "The marks on your face are glowing," Menma added. "Did you know that?" Naruto touched his whisker scars and felt warmth beneath his fingers. "What does that mean?" "I don't know. But it's not normal." Menma's expression was unreadable. "You're not normal, Naruto Uzumaki. The question is, what are you?" They dropped deeper still, past the twilight zone where sunlight died completely. Here, the only light came from bioluminescent creatures, jellyfish that pulsed with electric blue, fish that glowed like stars, eels whose teeth shone in the darkness. It was beautiful and alien and slightly terrifying. "We're approaching the dragon's territory," Menma said, his voice taking on a note of caution. "From here, I cannot accompany you. The first trial must be faced alone." They descended to a massive underwater cliff face, dropping into an abyss so deep Naruto couldn't see the bottom. The water here felt different, heavier, older, charged with ancient power. "Ryujin's lair is at the bottom of this trench," Menma explained. "The pearl of tides he guards is the heart of the ocean's power. A scale from his hide is proof you've faced him and survived, or gained his respect." "How do I find him?" "You don't. He finds you." Menma's eyes were serious. "Remember what Kushina told you, honesty and respect. Ryujin is ancient beyond measure. He was old when the world was young. Do not lie to him, do not try to steal from him. And whatever you do, do not show fear. That last one might be difficult. Fear is natural. Letting fear control you is what gets humans killed." Menma reached into a pouch at his waist and pulled out a small vial of luminescent liquid. This will light your way for a time. Use it wisely. Once it's gone, you'll be in total darkness. Naruto took the vial, his hand steadier than he felt. Thank you? Don't thank me yet. I give you even odds of surviving the next hour. Menma paused. For what it's worth, human, you have more courage than I expected. Kushina chose better than I thought she would. Before Naruto could respond, Menma was gone, swimming back up toward the distant surface, leaving Naruto alone at the edge of the abyss. Naruto opened the vial and poured a drop of the luminescent liquid onto his palm. It spread across his skin, creating a soft blue glow that pushed back the darkness in a small sphere around him. Taking a deep breath of water, still strange, even with the charm, he began his descent into the trench. The darkness was absolute beyond his small sphere of light. Naruto couldn't see the walls of the trench, couldn't see how far he'd come or how far he had yet to go. The pressure increased with every meter, a weight that should have crushed him but somehow didn't. The whisker marks on his face grew warmer, brighter, as if responding to the deep. Then he felt it. A presence. Vast and ancient and aware. Something was watching him. Hello? Naruto called into the darkness, his voice strange in the water. Ryujin? I've come to. The water around him exploded with light and heat. Fire, actual fire, burning underwater in defiance of natural law, erupted from the darkness below. Naruto threw himself to the side, barely avoiding being incinerated. The flames cast the trench in stark relief, and for just a moment, Naruto saw what had created them, a dragon, not like the pictures in his storybooks. This was real, massive beyond comprehension. Scales like molten metal, eyes like burning suns, a serpentine body that coiled through the water with impossible grace. Each scale was the size of Naruto's entire body, and they shimmered with every color of the ocean, green and blue and silver and gold. A human, the dragon's voice boomed, shaking the very water itself. In my territory. Seeking my treasure. The flames died, plunging the trench back into darkness save for Naruto's small light. But he could feel the dragon circling, could sense that massive presence spiraling around him like a shark. I don't seek treasure, Naruto managed, his voice shaking but clear. I seek a trial. A test. All humans seek treasure. The dragon's voice was everywhere and nowhere. They come with pretty words and desperate pleas. They promise respect, offer tributes, swear oaths, and then they try to steal what is mine. Another blast of fire, closer this time. The heat was intense, but again, it didn't burn Naruto as it should have. The whisker marks on his face flared bright, creating a shield of blue-white energy that deflected the flames. Interesting, Ryujin rumbled. You carry the mark of the beast. I have not seen that mark in 3,000 years. The dragon emerged from the darkness, and Naruto finally saw him fully. Ryujin was beautiful and terrible, ancient power made flesh. His eyes, massive and golden, fixed on Naruto with an intelligence that was almost human, and something far beyond human. Who are you, small one? The dragon's voice was quieter now, almost gentle. What are you, to bear that mark? My name is Naruto Uzumaki. He hesitated. What was he? I don't know what I am. But I know why I'm here. I love a mermaid princess named Kushina. To be with her, I must pass 3 trials. The first is to gain your respect, or a scale from your hide. Love. Ryujin's laugh was like underwater thunder. How many have come to me claiming love? How many have died still mouthing those words? I don't know. But I'm not lying. I love her more than I love my own life. That's why I'm here, even though this terrifies me. You admit fear? Most humans try to hide it, thinking it makes them weak. Fear doesn't make you weak, Naruto said, thinking of Kushina's words. Letting fear control you does. I'm afraid, but I'm here anyway. That has to count for something. Ryujin studied him with those burning eyes. Then, with a movement too fast to follow, the dragon lunged forward, his massive jaws opening wide enough to swallow Naruto whole. Naruto didn't run. Didn't flinch. He stood his ground, meeting those ancient eyes, and waited. The jaws stopped inches from his body. Hot breath, if dragons could breathe underwater, washed over him. You don't flee, Ryujin observed. Interesting. Brave or foolish? Both, probably. The dragon laughed again, pulling back. I like you, small one. You have spirit. But spirit alone doesn't earn my scale. Tell me, why should I help you? What does a dragon care for the love between a human and a mare? Naruto thought about all the clever arguments he could make. About unity between worlds, about breaking down ancient barriers, about the importance of love transcending boundaries. But looking into those ancient eyes, he knew none of that would work. So he told the truth. You shouldn't help me, Naruto said quietly. I have nothing to offer you. I'm nobody, an orphan, an outcast, a boy with strange marks who doesn't belong anywhere. I can't promise you riches or power or anything you don't already have. All I can offer is my truth. And what is your truth? That I love Kushina more than anything in this world or any other. That she's the first person who ever saw me, really saw me, and didn't turn away. That she makes me want to be better, braver, stronger than I am. Naruto's voice cracked. And that I'd rather die trying to be worthy of her than live without her. Silence filled the trench. Ryujin stared at him, unblinking, for what felt like hours. Then the dragon spoke, his voice soft and sad. 3,000 years ago, I had a mate. She was beauty itself, wisdom incarnate, the light of my existence. We had centuries together before the great separation. When the barriers went up, she was on the other side, in the deep magma vents where I could not follow. I watched her die from afar, unable to reach her, unable to say goodbye. The dragon's eyes dimmed with ancient grief. I guard this pearl, this treasure. But what good is treasure when you've lost everything that mattered? What good is immortality when the one you love is gone forever? I'm sorry, Naruto whispered. Don't be. It was long ago, and grief dulls with time, even for dragons. Ryujin lowered his massive head until one eye was level with Naruto. But it taught me something. Taught me that love, true love, is the rarest treasure in existence. Rarer than any pearl, any jewel, any magical artifact. Then you understand why I have to try. I do. Ryujin sighed, and the water rippled with the force of it. Which is why I'm going to help you, Naruto Uzumaki. Not because you've proven yourself worthy, you haven't, not yet, but because I remember what it's like to be young and in love and willing to fight the entire world for it. The dragon turned, his massive body coiling. When he turned back, he held something in his claws, a scale. But not just any scale. This one glowed with inner light, shimmering with all the colors of the ocean. This is a scale from directly above my heart. It carries my protection, my blessing, and a fragment of my power. It will shield you from harm once. Only once, so use it wisely. And it is proof that you have my respect. Naruto took the scale with trembling hands. It was warm and hummed with energy, surprisingly light for something that should have weighed tons. Thank you, he breathed. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. You still have 2 trials ahead of you, and they're worse than facing me. Ryujin's eyes were serious. The crushing depths will test your spirit in ways I cannot. And the Ocean King, he paused. Kushina's father is not cruel, but he is inflexible. He will not accept anything less than absolute purity of heart. I know. Do you? Because humans are complicated creatures, Naruto Uzumaki. You all have darkness inside you, doubts, fears, selfish desires. The Ocean King will see all of it, every ugly thought, every moment of weakness. If there's any part of you that wants Kushina for the wrong reasons, for her power, her beauty, her status, he will know. And he will kill you for it. Naruto swallowed hard. What if I don't know my own heart well enough? What if there's something inside me I haven't seen? Then you'll die. Ryujin said it matter-of-factly. But I don't think that will happen. I've looked into your eyes, small ones. I see no deception there. Only love, and a stubborn refusal to give up. Is that enough? We'll find out. The dragon began to swim deeper into the trench. Come. I'll take you to the crushing depths. Consider it my gift. Most who attempt the trials have to find it themselves, and many die in the search. Naruto followed the dragon down into the abyss. The pressure increased with every meter, and even with the breathing charm, Naruto felt it pressing against him. His ears popped, his chest ached, His bones felt like they might snap, and then they reached it, the crushing depths. It was a place beyond darkness, beyond pressure, beyond anything Naruto had ever imagined. The water here was so heavy it felt solid, so dark that light itself couldn't survive. Naruto's small glow flickered and died, consumed by the absolute blackness. "This is where I leave you," Ryujin's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "You must survive here until the moon rises again on the surface. Approximately 12 hours by your reckoning. The pressure will try to crush you. The darkness will try to break your mind. And the silence." The dragon paused. "The silence will try to steal your soul. How do I survive it? By accepting death. By making peace with the void. By finding stillness at your core so complete that nothing can disturb it." Ryujin's presence began to fade. "I survived my mate's death by learning to exist in that stillness. If you can find it, you'll survive. If you can't, the depths will have another victim." "Wait!" Naruto called out. "How will I know when the time is up?" "You'll know. Trust yourself, Naruto Uzumaki. Trust that mark on your face. Trust the power sleeping inside you." And then the dragon was gone, and Naruto was alone. Alone in absolute darkness. Alone with pressure that should have crushed him like an insect. Alone in silence so complete it roared in his ears. At first, panic threatened to overwhelm him. Every instinct screamed at him to swim up, to flee, to escape this impossible place. His lungs, even though he was breathing water, felt like they couldn't expand. His heart raced, pounding against his ribs like a trapped bird. And the darkness. Oh, the darkness was alive. It pressed against his eyes, his skin, his mind. He couldn't see his own hands in front of his face. Couldn't see anything at all. It was like being erased from existence. Naruto tried to count seconds, to track time, but lost count almost immediately. Was it minutes or hours? There was no way to tell. The pressure increased. Or did it? Maybe it was just his imagination. Maybe he was already dying and didn't know it. His thoughts began to spiral. Why was he doing this? For a girl he'd known for weeks? Was it worth dying for? Maybe everyone was right. Maybe he was cursed, broken, fundamentally wrong. Maybe he didn't deserve love. Maybe, no. Naruto spoke aloud, his voice swallowed instantly by the darkness. "No, I'm not doing this. I'm not letting the depths win." He thought of Kushina. Her smile. Her laugh. The way she looked at him like he mattered. The way she'd chosen him, despite everything, despite everyone. He thought of Ryujin's words. About finding stillness at the core. About accepting death. What if death wasn't something to fight against? What if it was just part of the cycle? Life, death, life again. The ocean itself demonstrated this. Everything that died in the sea fed something else. Nothing was truly lost. Everything transformed. Naruto stopped fighting the pressure. Stopped fighting the darkness. Stopped fighting anything at all. He let himself float in the void, either up nor down, directions meaningless here. He let his breathing slow, his heartbeat steady. He let go of fear, of panic, of the desperate need to survive. If he died here, at least it would be in pursuit of love. At least his life would have had meaning, however brief. And in that moment of acceptance, something changed. The whisker marks on his face began to glow again, brighter than before. But the light didn't push back the darkness. It became part of it. Blue-white energy swirled around Naruto, mixing with the blackness, creating something new. Not light or dark, but both. Balance. Naruto felt something awaken inside him. Not the breathing charm, something deeper, older, more fundamental. It was like a door opening in his mind, and through that door poured power. Raw, primal, vast power that had always been there, sleeping, waiting. The seal on his face, because that's what the whisker marks were, Naruto understood now, had been holding this power back. Protecting him from it. But down here, in the depths where survival required accessing everything he had, the seal loosened slightly. Just enough. Energy flooded through Naruto's body, and suddenly the pressure didn't hurt anymore. The darkness didn't terrify him. He could sense the water around him, feel the currents miles away, hear the heartbeat of the ocean itself, and he heard something else. A voice, deep and rumbling and definitely not human. Finally it said, Finally you acknowledge me, Kit. Naruto's eyes snapped open. Or maybe they'd been open all along, but only now could he see. And what he saw made his breath catch. There, in the darkness of his mind, was a cage. Massive, made of glowing bars that looked like paper seals strung together. And inside the cage was a fox. Not a normal fox. This creature was enormous, with 9 tails that swirled like flames behind it. Its eyes were red as blood and ancient as time. What are you? Naruto whispered in his mind. I am the 9-tailed fox, the creature said, its voice a growl and a purr at once. I am the demon sealed inside you the day you were born. I am the reason for those marks on your face. I am the power that's kept you alive all these years, even when you didn't know I existed. A demon. That explains so much. The villagers called him cursed. The way people feared him. The strange power he'd always felt bubbling under his skin. Does it matter what I am? The fox leaned closer to the bars of its cage. What matters is that you need my help to survive this place. And I need you alive if I'm ever to be free. Why would I trust a demon? Because we're stuck together, Kit. Your death is my death, at least for now. And because... The fox's expression shifted to something almost amused. I like that little mermaid of yours. She has spirit. Fire. She reminds me of my mate, before the humans killed her and sealed me away. I'm sorry. Are you? The fox studied him. You're human. My enemy. Yet you apologize for what your kind did centuries before you were born. Why? Because you loved someone and lost them. I understand that pain. Or at least I understand what it would feel like to lose Kushina. I'm sorry anyone had to feel that. The fox was quiet for a long moment. Then it laughed, a sound like thunder. You're an interesting one, Naruto Uzumaki. Most humans who discover me try to bargain, to demand power, to assert dominance. You apologize. The fox's tail swished. Very well. I'll lend you my strength, not all of it. The seal won't allow that. But enough to survive the depths. In return, you'll consider loosening the seal eventually, not breaking it. I have no desire to go on a rampage. But loosening it enough that I can stretch, breathe, exist more fully. You won't hurt anyone? I won't hurt anyone you care about, the fox amended. But I make no promises about idiots who attack you first. Fair? Fair, Naruto agreed. Then let's make the depths regret challenging us. Power exploded through Naruto's body, but this time he didn't fight it. He embraced it, channeling it, shaping it. The fox's chakra, that's what this energy was called, he somehow knew, mixed with his own, creating something unique. Something that had never existed before. A red aura formed around Naruto, pushing back the darkness and pressure with ease. He could see now, could breathe, could exist in this impossible place without straying. The whisker marks on his face glowed bright red, and he felt more alive than ever before. Time passed differently with the fox's power sustaining him. Hours might have been minutes, or minutes might have been hours. Naruto floated in the depths, and instead of fighting for survival, he meditated. He talked to the fox, whose name, he learned, was Kurama, though the demon preferred to be called the 9 Tails. They shared stories. Naruto told the fox about Kushina, about their love, about the trials. Kurama told him about the ancient world, about the great separation, about the war between humans and demons that had led to so many seals, so much pain. Your father sealed me inside you, Kurama revealed. He was a great ninja, a seal master without equal. He did it to save his village from my rampage, a rampage caused by a human who controlled me against my will. I hated your father for years. Centuries, by my reckoning. Do you still hate him? No, Kurama admitted. Not anymore. He did what he thought was necessary to protect his people. And in an ironic twist, he saved me too, saved me from being controlled again, from being used as a weapon. This seal is a prison, but it's also a protection. I'm sorry you had to be sealed. Stop apologizing for things that aren't your fault, Kit. It's annoying, Naruto laughed, and the sound echoed strangely in the depths. Can I ask you something? Why did my father seal you in his own child? That seems cruel? Heartless? Kurama's tails lashed. Perhaps. But also strategic. He knew that only someone with his bloodline could contain my power safely, and he believed, foolishly, I thought at the time, that you would eventually befriend me. That we would become partners instead of prisoners and jailers. Was he right? We'll see, the fox said, but there was warmth in its voice. We'll see, Kit. When Naruto finally felt the water shift, a subtle change in current that signaled time passing on the surface, he knew the trial was complete. He'd survived 12 hours in the crushing depths. More than survived, he'd discovered a part of himself he'd never known existed. He began to ascend, the fox's power still thrumming through him, and as he rose, he felt Kurama settle back into sleep. You did well, Kit, the demon's voice was fading. Now go past that last trial. Win your mate. Make your father's faith in you worthwhile. Thank you, Kurama, don't thank me yet. The Ocean King is going to be a problem. He'll sense me inside you, and he won't like it. Demons and merfolk have history. What kind of history? The bad kind. Just be honest with him. It's your only chance. And then the fox was gone, returned to whatever space it occupied in Naruto's mind, and Naruto was alone again. But not as alone as he'd been before. He had a demon inside him, a demon who might become a friend. As he swam upward, following instinct more than direction, Naruto saw light above. Not sunlight, something else. Something that pulsed with power and majesty. The Ocean King's palace. Menma was waiting at the edge of the light, his expression shocked. You survived, he said, as if he couldn't quite believe it. You actually survived the crushing depths. Barely, Naruto lied. In truth, once he'd accessed Kurama's power, it had been almost easy. But that seemed like information best kept to himself. And you have Ryujin's scale. Menma gestured to the glowing scale Naruto still clutched. 2 trials complete. That's never happened before. Not in my lifetime. How's Kushina? Frantic. She's been waiting at the palace gates, demanding updates every hour. Father has forbidden her from seeing you until the trials are complete. Menma's expression softened slightly. She loves you very much, you know. I've never seen her like this. I love her too. More than anything. Then I hope you pass this final trial, Naruto Uzumaki. Because if you don't, my sister's heart will break. Menma gestured toward the palace. Come. The Ocean King awaits. And he's not known for his patience. They swam toward the light, toward the palace that rose from the ocean floor like a dream made real. Pearl and coral, bioluminescent gardens, towers that spiraled upward toward the distant surface. It was beautiful and terrifying, the seat of ancient power, and somewhere inside, the Ocean King waited to judge Naruto's heart. One more trial. One more test. And then, if he survived, Kushina would be his. Forever. Naruto touched the whisker marks on his face, felt the warmth of Kurama's sleeping presence, and swam forward into destiny. Whatever came next, he would face it. For love. For Kushina. For a future where 2 impossible people could finally belong together. The final trial awaited, and Naruto Uzumaki was ready. The Ocean King's palace was a monument to eternity. Every surface gleamed with mother-of-pearl. Every corridor pulsed with bioluminescent life. Gardens of impossible beauty bloomed in the depths. Flowers made of living light. Trees of coral that sang in harmony with the currents. Fish swam in schools that formed elaborate patterns, their movements choreographed by centuries of tradition. But Naruto barely noticed any of it. His attention was focused on the massive doors ahead, carved from a single piece of ancient whale bone, adorned with scenes of the Great Separation. The final trial waited beyond those doors. And Kushina. She's not inside the throne room, Menma said, as if reading his thoughts. Father won't let her attend your judgment. Too much conflict of interest. Where is she? In her chambers, under guard. She's not taking it well. Menma's expression was grim. She tried to break out 3 times yesterday. The guards finally had to bind her with suppression chains, the ones that limit mere magic. Naruto's hands clenched into fists. You chained her? She was going to hurt herself trying to get to you, Menma said quietly. Or hurt the guards. Or both. The chains are for her protection as much as ours. He paused. She's been screaming for 2 days straight that if you die, she'll declare war on our father. I've never seen her like this. She's always been fierce, but this is different. She shouldn't have to suffer because of me. She's suffering because she loves you. There's a difference. Menma stopped before the great doors. Are you ready? No, Naruto thought. I'll never be ready. But he nodded. The doors opened without anyone touching them, swinging wide on silent hinges. Beyond lay the throne room, a vast chamber that seemed to stretch into infinity. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness, and the floor was polished coral that reflected everything like a mirror. Rows of mere nobles lined the walls, watching with cold, hostile eyes, and at the far end, on a throne of living pearls, sat the Ocean King. He was massive, easily 3 times the size of Menma, with a tail of deep midnight blue scattered with scales that looked like stars. His torso was humanoid but powerful, muscles like coiled steel beneath pale skin marked with intricate tattoos that seemed to move. His hair was silver white, flowing around him like a mane, and his eyes were the ocean itself. Deep and fathomless and ancient beyond measure. They pinned Naruto in place with their weight, and suddenly he understood what it meant to be judged by the sea. Naruto Uzumaki. The Ocean King's voice was gentle, far gentler than Naruto expected, but it carried absolute authority. You have passed 2 of the 3 trials. You have earned Ryujin's respect and survived the crushing depths. These are accomplishments worthy of recognition. Naruto bowed, not sure what else to do. Thank you, Your Majesty, but these trials were merely tests of body and courage. This final trial tests something far more important, the purity of your heart. Your intentions toward my daughter. The Ocean King leaned forward. Before I pass judgment, I will hear your story. Why do you love Kushina? What is it you truly want from her? Every eye in the throne room was on Naruto. He felt their hostility, their skepticism, their certainty that he would fail. A human, seeking to claim a princess of the sea? Absurd. Impossible. Wrong. Naruto took a breath and spoke the truth. I love Kushina because she's the first person who ever saw me. Really saw me, not the cursed orphan, not the demon child, just me. She's fierce and kind and stubborn and beautiful. She makes me laugh. She makes me want to be better than I am. When I'm with her, I feel like I belong somewhere for the first time in my life. That is what she gives you, the Ocean King observed. What do you give her in return? I don't know, Naruto admitted. Probably not enough. She's a princess, powerful and amazing, and I'm nobody. But I give her everything I have, my honesty, my loyalty, my heart. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of her. And if she becomes human for you? If she sacrifices her power, her immortality, her connection to the sea? Will you still love her when she's no longer a princess, no longer special? She'll always be special to me, Naruto said firmly. Not because of her power or her status, but because of who she is. The power and the tail and the magic, those are just details. I love Kushina. Whatever form she takes, that won't change. The Ocean King studied him in silence. Then he stood, his massive form unfolding, and Naruto had to crane his neck to keep eye contact. You speak well, the king said. But words are easy. Let me see the truth of your heart. He raised one hand, and the water around Naruto began to glow. Energy surged through the throne room, ancient and powerful, and Naruto felt it pressing against his mind, his soul, seeking entrance. Careful, Kit, Kurama's voice whispered in his mind. He's about to see everything. Including me. Naruto didn't fight it. He opened himself completely, letting the Ocean King's power flow through him. Let him see. Let him judge. Naruto had nothing to hide. The king's eyes widened. You carry a demon inside you, he said, and the entire throne room gasped. The nine-tailed fox. One of the great beasts of legend. Yes, Naruto said simply. Did you think to hide this from me? Did you think I wouldn't notice? No, Your Majesty. I didn't hide it because I didn't know about it until yesterday, when I was in the crushing depths. The demon, his name is Kurama, has been sealed inside me since birth. My father put him there to save his village, and you expect me to allow my daughter to bind herself to a vessel of demon power? To risk her soul by proximity to such darkness? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled nobles. Naruto felt his chances slipping away. Kurama isn't evil, he said desperately. He was used against his will, controlled by humans who treated him as a weapon. The seal is as much protection for him as containment. And he helped me survive the depths. He could have let me die, but he didn't, because your death would mean his death, maybe at first. But we talked. Really talked. He told me about losing his mate, about the pain of being sealed away, about loneliness that's lasted centuries. And I understood him, because I've been lonely too. We're not friends yet, but we could be. We're trying. The Ocean King's expression was unreadable. He continued his examination of Naruto's heart, and Naruto felt him seeing everything, every fear, every doubt, every moment of weakness. He saw Naruto's childhood of isolation, his desperate need for belonging. He saw every time Naruto had been rejected, beaten and mocked. And he saw Naruto's love for Kushina, burning bright and pure and true. I see no deception in you, the Ocean King said slowly. No hidden agenda, no desire for power or status. You truly love my daughter for herself, not for what she can give you. Hope flared in Naruto's chest. But, the hope guttered. You are damaged, Naruto Uzumaki. Broken by your past, carrying trauma and pain that you've never properly addressed. You have abandonment wounds that run so deep. And while your love for Kushina is genuine now, I fear what happens when those wounds resurface. When the reality of a relationship settles in and replaces the dream. When Kushina inevitably disappoints you, because all people disappoint each other eventually. Will your damaged heart turn on her? I would never hurt her, Naruto said, his voice shaking. Not intentionally, perhaps. But damaged people damage others, even with the best intentions. I have seen it too many times. Love that starts pure and becomes poisoned by unhealed wounds. Then I'll heal them, Naruto insisted. I'll work on myself, I'll become better. You cannot heal in a day what has been broken over a lifetime. So what are you saying? That I'm too broken to deserve love? That because I had a hard childhood, I'm not allowed happiness. I'm saying, the Ocean King's voice was gentle but implacable, that I cannot in good conscience allow my daughter to sacrifice her immortality for someone so fundamentally uncertain of their own worth. How can you love her properly when you've never learned to love yourself? The words hit Naruto like a physical blow. Because they were true. All of them. He didn't love himself, had never learned how. How could he, when everyone had always told him he was cursed, wrong, broken, Your Majesty? Menma stepped forward, his voice respectful but firm. Permission to speak? The Ocean King nodded. I've watched this human for the past 3 days. I've seen how he faces fear, how he treats those around him, how he speaks about my sister. Menma met his father's eyes. Yes, he's damaged. Yes, he has wounds. But he's also trying. He's fighting to be better. And honestly, father, so is Kushina. She's as broken as he is, just in different ways. Mind your tongue, Menma. No, I won't. Not about this. Menma's tail lashed. Kushina has been angry and isolated since mother died. She's pushed everyone away, fought every tradition, rejected every suitor. We all thought she was just being difficult. But maybe she was waiting. Waiting for someone who understands what it's like to be an outcast. Someone who could meet her in her brokenness and not run away. The Ocean King's expression was thunderous. Are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that maybe 2 broken people can heal each other better than 2 whole ones ever could, Menma said quietly. Because they understand. They know, and they'll fight for each other because they know what it's like to have no one fighting for them. Silence fell over the throne room. The Ocean King turned back to Naruto. Is this true? Do you see yourself and my daughter as 2 broken people trying to heal together? Naruto thought about it, really thought about it. About Kushina's rage and isolation, her desperate need to be seen and understood. About his own loneliness and abandonment wounds. About how they'd recognized each other instantly. 2 lost souls finding home. Yes, he said softly. We're both a little broken. But maybe that's okay. Maybe broken things can still be beautiful. Maybe they can still love and be loved. And maybe, the Ocean King said, they can become stronger in the broken places. Like a sword reforged, harder for having been shattered. Was that agreement? Naruto hardly dared hope. I do not give my blessing lightly, Naruto Uzumaki. But Menma speaks wisdom, much as I hate to admit it. A ghost of a smile crossed the king's stern face. My daughter is not perfect. She's rash, stubborn, prone to violence when frustrated. A whole suitor would likely be destroyed by her temper. But you've already survived storms. You know how to bend without breaking. Does that mean? It means I will allow the union, under one condition. There was always a condition. Naruto waited, tension coiling in his stomach. Kushina must choose. Truly choose. I will not make the decision for her. The Ocean King's eyes were sad. If she transforms into a human, she loses everything. Her power, her immortality, her place in this kingdom. She will age and die as all humans do. She will never swim these depths again. It is a sacrifice beyond measure, and she must make it with full knowledge of what she's losing. I understand. And if she chooses to remain me, you must accept it. You cannot ask her to change for you. Love is not about ownership or control. It's about wanting the other person's happiness even above your own. Can you do that? Can you let her go if that's what's best for her? The question carved into Naruto's heart. Could he? Could he walk away from Kushina if she decided her ocean life mattered more than a life with him? It would destroy him. But yes. If it made her happy, truly happy, he would do it. Yes, Naruto said, and meant it. I love her enough to let her go if that's what she needs. The Ocean King's expression softened. Then you have passed the trial of purity. Your heart is true, even if it is scarred. You may approach the throne. Naruto swam forward on trembling limbs. When he reached the throne, the Ocean King placed one massive hand on his head. By the ancient laws, by the trials completed, by the purity of heart demonstrated, I grant you the right to ask Kushina Uzumaki for her hand in union. She may choose to accept or refuse. She may choose to remain met or become human. But the choice is hers, and hers alone. Power flowed from the Ocean King into Naruto, sealing the judgment. It felt like being baptized in starlight. Thank you, Naruto whispered. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. The hardest part is still ahead, convincing Kushina that this is what she truly wants. The king released him and turned to Menma. Bring your sister. It's time she made her choice. Menma bowed and swam from the throne room. The assembled nobles began to murmur among themselves, their expressions ranging from shock to disgust to a few looks of cautious approval. Naruto stood before the throne, waiting, his heart hammering so hard it might burst from his chest. And then the doors burst open with a crash. Kushina exploded into the throne room like a crimson comet, her hair wild, her eyes blazing. Suppression chains still bound her wrists and tail, but she'd clearly overpowered whatever guards were meant to restrain her. Behind her, Menma swam with an expression that said, I tried to warn you. Where is he? Kushina's voice was hoarse from screaming. Where's Naruto? If you've heard him, father, I swear I'll. She stopped. She'd seen him. For a moment, the entire throne room held its breath. Then Kushina was moving, swimming faster than Naruto had ever seen her move, chains and all. She crashed into him with enough force to knock them both tumbling through the water, and her arms wrapped around him like she'd never let go. You're alive, she sobbed into his shoulder. You're alive, you're alive, you're alive. I'm alive, Naruto confirmed, holding her just as tight. I passed the trials, Kushina. All three. She pulled back to look at him, tears streaming down her face. You actually did it? You faced Ryujin and the crushing depths and father's judgment, and survived? Barely. But yes, you absolute idiot. She hit his chest, not hard, but the emotion behind it was fierce. You could have died. You almost certainly should have died. What were you thinking? I was thinking that you're worth it. That we're worth it. Kushina's expression crumbled, and she kissed him desperately, chains and the throne room full of nobles be damned. Naruto kissed her back, pouring all his relief and joy and love into it. Kushina. The Ocean King's voice cut through their reunion. Control yourself. We're in the throne room. I don't care, Kushina shot back, but she pulled away from Naruto slightly. She turned to face her father, her eyes still defiant. You tried to kill him. My own father tried to kill the man I love. I tested him. There's a difference. Is there? Kushina's voice was cold. Because from where I was sitting, locked in my chambers, chained like a prisoner, it looked like you were trying to drive him away. Like you've tried to drive away everyone who's ever cared about me. That's not fair, Kushina. Isn't it? You've rejected every suitor I've ever had, dismissed every friendship I've tried to form with surface dwellers, isolated me in the name of protection until I had no one. And then when I finally find someone who actually loves me, you put him through trials designed to kill humans. The Ocean King's jaw tightened. I was protecting you. From what? From happiness? From love? From the possibility that maybe, just maybe, I could have something good in my life? Kushina was shaking now, years of resentment pouring out. You've been so afraid of losing me like you lost Mother that you've been crushing me instead. Well, I'm done. I'm done being your little princess in a gilded cage. Kushina, I choose Naruto. She said it loud enough for the entire throne room to hear. I choose to become human. I choose to leave this kingdom, leave my power, leave everything, if that's what it takes to be with him. Because he's the only person in my entire life who's ever chosen me back. The throne room erupted in gasps and protests. The Ocean King looked like he'd been struck. You would abandon your people? Your family? Everything you are? My people treat me like a dangerous animal to be contained. My family, except Menma, has barely spoken to me since Mother died. And what am I? Kushina's voice broke. I don't even know what I am anymore, Father. I haven't for years. But when I'm with Naruto, I feel like myself. Like I'm someone worth being. Kushina, please. The king's voice was pained. Don't make this decision in anger. Think about what you're giving up. I've thought about nothing else for 3 days. She turned to Naruto, her eyes red but determined. I love you. I choose you. I choose a short, mortal life with you over an eternity without you, if you'll still have me. Always, Naruto said, his voice thick with emotion. For as long as I live, I'll choose you. Then it's decided. Kushina turned back to her father. Perform the transformation ritual. Make me human. The Ocean King looked at his daughter, really looked at her, and Naruto saw the moment something broke inside the ancient ruler. He saw past the defiant princess to the lost little girl who never gotten over losing her mother. He saw the loneliness that matched Naruto's own. You're sure? The king asked quietly. There's no reversing this, Kushina. Once you're human, you can never return to the sea. You'll age sick and die. You'll be mortal in every sense of the word, I'm sure. But her voice wavered, just slightly. You could still have a life here. We could make arrangements for Naruto to visit, perhaps even live in the shallows where both of you could. That's not real life, Father. That's a compromise. And I'm tired of compromising. But there were tears on her face now. Please. Just, let me go. Let me make my own choice. The Ocean King closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet. Very well. If this is truly what you want, I won't stop you. He stood, and his voice took on the formal tone of ritual. By the ancient laws, by the trials past, by the choice freely made, I hereby grant permission for the transformation. Kushina Uzumaki, Princess of the Deep, may choose to become human and forfeit all mere magic, all immortality, all connection to the ocean. He raised both hands, and the water around them began to glow. Wait! A voice called out. Everyone turned. Standing at the edge of the throne room was an elderly mermaid, her hair white as seafoam, her eyes clouded with age. She wore the robes of the royal archivists. Forgive the interruption, Your Majesty, but there is another option. The Ocean King frowned. What option? The law is clear. The law is old, the archivist said, swimming forward. And much has been forgotten. But I have been researching since Princess Kushina's relationship with the human became known. She held up an ancient scroll, the parchment yellowed with age. There is a precedent. From before the great separation. Explain, the king commanded. In the old days, when land and sea were not divided, there were unions between humans and merfolk. Rare, but not forbidden. And there was a ritual, the tidal binding, that allowed such unions without requiring transformation. Kushina's eyes widened. What does it do? It creates a bond between two souls, linking them across the divide of land and sea. The mare retains their form and powers, but gains the ability to walk on land during certain moon phases. The human gains the ability to breathe underwater and swim the depths without aid. Both are bound to each other, their lifespans synchronized. They live and die together. That's impossible, Menma breathed. The tidal binding is a myth. It was real, the archivist insisted. The ritual was lost during the Great Separation, but I've found the instructions. It would require both parties to sacrifice something. The mare must anchor part of their essence to the land, and the human must anchor part of their essence to the sea. It's painful, dangerous, and the bond cannot be broken once formed. But it would allow them to exist in both worlds. Naruto looked at Kushina. She looked back at him, hope and fear warring in her expression. Is this what you want? She asked him. To be bound to me forever? To share my life, my death, everything? Yes, Naruto said without hesitation. Yes, 1,000 times yes. It means if I die, you die. If you die, I die. We'd be connected in every way. You'd feel my emotions, I'd feel yours. There'd be no privacy, no separation. We'd be two souls sharing one fate. I know. And I still want it. Kushina turned to her father. Can we do this? The tidal binding instead of the transformation? The Ocean King looked at the archivist. Is it safe? Safe? No. Many who attempted it in ancient times died in the process. But for those who survived, it created bonds stronger than death itself. The archivist met his eyes. Your Majesty, with respect, your daughter has already decided to risk everything for love. At least this way, she doesn't have to give up who she is in the process. The king was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed, and in that sigh was centuries of weariness. You're so much like your mother, he said to Kushina. Stubborn, reckless, brave beyond reason. She would have done the same thing, thrown away kingdoms for love. His eyes grew distant, and I would have let her, because seeing her happy mattered more than anything else. Father, do the binding, he said to the archivist. If my daughter is determined to bind herself to this human, let it be in a way that preserves who she is. He looked at Naruto. But know this, boy, if you hurt her, if you betray her, if you make her regret this choice, the ocean will reclaim what was given. You'll drown in waters you once breathed. Do you understand? Yes, your Majesty. And I swear I'll never give you reason to invoke that curse. See that you don't. The archivist began preparing for the ritual, gathering materials and drawing symbols on the throne room floor. Kushina and Naruto stood together, hands clasped, watching the preparations. Are you scared? Kushina whispered. Terrified, Naruto admitted. But also excited. We get to be together. Really together. That's all I've wanted since the day I met you. Me too. She squeezed his hand. Whatever happens in there, whatever pain we have to face, we face it together. Deal? Deal. The archivist finished her preparations. It's ready. Princess, human, step into the circle. They did, still holding hands. The tidal binding is not for the faint of heart, the archivist warned. You will each sacrifice part of your essence. Princess, you will anchor yourself to the land, giving up the purity of your ocean nature. Human, you will anchor yourself to the sea, giving up the certainty of your mortal death. The pain will be immense. Some who attempted this ritual died from the agony alone. We understand, Kushina said. Then let us begin. The archivist began to chant in a language older than memory, and the symbols on the floor began to glow. Power filled the throne room, ancient and wild, and Naruto felt it washing over him like a wave. Then the pain started. It was like being torn apart and stitched back together simultaneously. Naruto felt something being pulled from the core of his being, his humanity, his mortality, his connection to the land. It was agony beyond anything he'd experienced in the trials. Beside him, Kushina screamed. He could feel her pain through their clasped hands, could sense her ocean essence being ripped away, transformed into something new. Hold on, kid! Kurama's voice roared in his mind. Don't let go. If you break contact now, you'll both die. Naruto gripped Kushina's hand tighter, even though every nerve in his body was on fire. She gripped back, her nails drawing blood, and they held on. The transformation was brutal. Naruto felt his body changing, not dramatically, but fundamentally. His lungs adapted to process both air and water. His eyes changed to see in the deepest dark. His skin developed a faint shimmer, like light on water. And through it all, he felt Kushina, her fear, her pain, her love, her determination. They were becoming something new. Something that had never existed before. Not human, not mare, but both. Neither. Something in between. The pain crescendoed to a breaking point, and Naruto felt consciousness slipping. He was dying, burning, being unmade, and then it stopped. The glow faded. The power dissipated. And Naruto and Kushina collapsed to the floor, gasping, shaking, but alive. Changed, but alive. Naruto looked at his hands. They were the same, but also different. His skin had a faint iridescence now, barely noticeable unless you looked closely. And when he touched his face, the whisker marks felt different, not just scars from a seal, but something more. Something earned. Kushina was staring at her tail, and Naruto saw it shimmer and change. For a moment, it became legs, fully human legs, before shifting back to her tail. "I can feel the land," she whispered. "I can feel the earth calling to me. Like I could walk on it if I chose. And I can feel the ocean," Naruto said, awed. "Like it's part of me now. Like I could swim to the bottom of the world and never tire." The archivist smiled, looking exhausted but satisfied. "The tidal binding is complete. You are bound to each other across land and sea. 2 souls, 1 fate. Congratulations." The Ocean King descended from his throne and approached them. His expression was unreadable. "You survived," he said. "I confess I did not think you would." "We're stubborn," Kushina said, managing a weak smile. "That you are." The king helped them both to their feet. "The binding means you are married in the eyes of the ocean. No ceremony needed. Your souls are already joined. Naruto Uzumaki, you are now officially part of my family. I welcome you, though I still think you're both insane." "We probably are," Naruto agreed. The king looked at Kushina, and his stern expression finally cracked. "Your mother would be proud of you." "Terrified, but proud. You've always had her courage." "Thank you, father," Kushina said, tears streaming down her face. The king pulled her into an embrace, and Naruto felt the love between them through the bond. It was complicated, painful, but real. This was her family, and now his too. When they separated, Menma approached, grinning. "Welcome to the family, brother," he said to Naruto. "Try not to let Kushina's temper kill you before the week is out." "I'll do my best." The throne room, which had been silent during the ritual, now erupted in a mixture of applause, protest, and shocked discussion. But Naruto barely heard it. All his attention was on Kushina, on the bond humming between them, on the future stretching out before them. They'd done it. Against all odds, against ancient laws, against common sense itself, they'd found a way to be together. "Let's go home," Kushina said, and Naruto realized she meant the surface. Meant his world. Together, he agreed. They swam from the throne room hand in hand, leaving the underwater kingdom behind. As they ascended toward the surface, toward the forbidden cove where they'd first met, Naruto felt complete for the first time in his life. He had Kushina. He had Kurama, a demon who might become a friend. He had a new family, strange as it was. He had a purpose, a future, a life worth living. The water grew lighter as they rose, and soon Naruto could see the shimmer of the surface above them. Just a little further, and they'd break through into air and sunlight, into their new life together. But as they swam, either of them noticed a dark figure watching from the depths below. A merman with black scales and cold eyes, who'd witnessed the entire ceremony with growing rage. Menma hadn't been the Ocean King's only son present in the throne room, and Kyubi, the eldest prince, did not approve of his sister's choice, not one bit. But that was a problem for another day. For now, Naruto and Kushina burst through the surface of the forbidden cove, gasping and laughing and alive. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of red and gold, and it was the most beautiful thing Naruto had ever seen. "We made it," Kushina breathed. "We made it," Naruto echoed. They kissed there, in the water where they'd first met, where Naruto had freed her from the nets, and she'd freed him from loneliness. The bond between them pulsed with joy, with love, with the promise of every tomorrow they'd face together. The trials were over. The real adventure was just beginning, and they couldn't wait.